What up, guys? Welcome to this episode of Santa Cruz Medicinals Radio. Today, I have my functional medicine doctor on the podcast, and this is going to be one of the most beneficial episodes for your health because we're going to give you tons of actionable stuff that you can take into your life and use like directly today. And a lot of people simply don't have the money to work with a functional medicine doctor. We're going to get into the differences between just going to your regular doctor versus working with a functional medicine doctor, and then we're going to get into just topics that are going to benefit you guys. So welcome to the show. Good to
Awesome,
see
man.
you again.
Good to be here too. After seeing Peter Attia's 60-minute episode, what, $250,000 a year
Yeah.
to work with him? I'm like, maybe I should raise my rates.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No,
God.
he's blowing up right now. And I love a lot of the stuff that Peter Attia does. But I mean, it's kind of the future of medicine is to work with a functional medicine doctor, do stuff like pre-nuvo screenings for early detection of cancer, a lot of lab work and interpretation of those lab results, which we've seen a lot of companies pop up to, oh, we're going to solve this. And we'll talk about some of the issues there. But what I want to get into to start up the podcast is basically people are like, what is functional medicine? So most people, they go to their doctor for a checkup, and let's just say they're a healthy 20-year-old. They're going to go into their doctor, they're going to get a checkup, and it's most likely going to be 12 to 15 minutes that doctor spends with them, if that. They're going to get some basic stuff done, but what they most likely will not get is lab work. And what I mean by lab work is there's basic blood work where, and you'll get into what you can see from blood. And then there's other lab tests that doctors almost never give their patients, which are stuff that I've talked about, like the GI map tests, organic acids tests, and we can talk about some of the other tests that you commonly use. What I really want to relay to you guys is why they are not giving you those tests is not because the Western medicine's evil and those doctors are evil and they don't care. That is not true. Most of them genuinely care. It's just the way the system was built. You have the insurance model of healthcare, and if that doctor gives a healthy 20-year-old a GI map test, they can then basically get in trouble to keep it simple. They can get in trouble because the insurance company goes, why did you give a healthy 20-year-old, maybe they're having some slight digestive issues, but nothing major. Why did you give them a GI map test? And if it doesn't fit into that insurance little checkbox, they can get into trouble. So that is why doctors aren't doing deep lab work for you guys to optimize your performance or feel your best. So can you dive into some of the lab tests that you commonly do, what you can see from blood, what you can see from stool, all that?
Yeah. So first off, like conventional medical doctors, their referral source is conventional insurance, whether it's United or Blue Cross. If they start ordering too many things out of the box that's not justified within the disease-based symptom model, they're going to get an audit. And that audit may not just go to that patient. It may go to lots of patients. And then they will literally claw back tens of thousands of dollars from that doctor, from other patients, not that patient. And then secondly, their referral source dries up. And so if you're like the average MD is like $500,000 in debt, they need the gravy train to keep on going. They need, predictability. And so that's part of they're playing defensive medicine. They're thinking more about themselves than the patient. All right. Number two, let's say they come in, right? You got your general exam, looking at your skin, looking at your body, maybe palpating your abdomen, making sure everything looks good, looking at fingernails, just general looking for overt stuff. Now, maybe they run some blood work, CBC, metabolic panel, lipid screen. I still see so many patients that come in with that general screening, and I see so many imbalances because they're looking at things from a disease-based standpoint. Does the girl or the guy have very low red blood cells? Do they have liver enzymes off the chart? Is there potentially their white blood cells may be indicative of leukemia or lymphoma, right? Is something else there. So they're looking at glaring big stuff. We can look at it and we can get a lot more information from that. And we can go into maybe what are some things that I may be able to get from those markers. We can talk about that. And so it's a different philosophy. And so we're looking at things based on a functional reference range. So imagine the typical lab range is 2 standard deviations to the left and to the right, right? That's your typical, bell curve where 95% of the population fits into it. The problem with that model, you can go back and look at like YouTube videos from the 60s and 70s, people are on the beach, right? There's like, no one's overweight, right? And so that healthy bell curve range is probably a lot more narrow. As people get sicker, that range gets wider and wider and wider.
Sure.
And so then you can get in that range and be considered normal, but are you, right?
Yeah.
Probably not. And so we may look at like the middle standard deviation to the right and left, 1 versus 2. So we're in that maybe middle 50%. So that's our better, we call it our functional range, our healthy range. So that's a better range to look at from a healthy standpoint. We're not looking at things from a disease standpoint. We're looking at it from a health and function standpoint.
For sure. And so the unique thing with people like yourself is you run thousands of lab tests on patients every single year. So you sort of have all this data coming in
Correct.
of you're seeing patients over and over again that, have the same kind of things. Hey, this patient's presenting with anxiety and maybe some gut issues, and you run all their lab work and you kind of see what's going on. And you might do that thousands of times and you'll kind of see like typical patterns and stuff. Can you also talk about some of the common lab tests that you might order for somebody that really are not used in traditional medicine?
Great. Excellent question. I mean, so there's so much we can glean from just the conventional stuff. So we can come back to that. But out of the gate, just looking at stress hormones, looking at cortisol rhythm is amazing. If someone's stressed, energy, mood issues, anxiety, fatigue, that gives us a great bit of information. Looking at sex hormones, are we in an optimal range or a dysfunctional range? Right? Are we clearing out? Are we detoxifying our hormones? If we're a guy, are we estrogen dominant? Like, are we clearing out our estrogens? We have high level of estrogens. Those are huge out of the gate. And then we go to the gut. The gut plays a big role. You may think, hey, well, I don't have bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation. Well, your gut's really important for detoxifying estrogen. And if you have dysbiotic bacteria, the outer shell of that bacteria is called lipopolysaccharide. It's an endotoxin. That endotoxin can actually increase an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase. And that enzyme takes detoxified estrogen. It's on the conveyor belt to leave your body. And it literally takes it off the conveyor belt and puts it back into circulation.
Wow.
And so gut health can screw up your hormones.
And so what do certain tests like the GI map look at? What does a Dutch test look at versus just a little snapshot of your hormones through blood, which is like the conventional medicine route of, hey, doc, I want to get my testosterone checked or my cortisol looked at. Like, here's a blood test versus what a Dutch test would look at. What does an organic acids test look at? I just got the little addition, I think, to the organic acids test. I got my glyphosate tested.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'm really low on glyphosate. I don't eat a lot of, grain in my diet. Like, I don't know if, that's why I try to be somewhat careful with that. I try to go organic with berries and stuff. And so that was cool to see my glyphosate is low. But yeah, can you talk about some of that stuff? Like, what specifically is a GI map test looking at, Dutch test, organic acids?
All right, let's go through each test one at a time. So I've gone through thousands of these, so it's like ingrained. I can picture the test right in front of me. So let's go gut stuff, right? So first thing is we're going to look at just foodborne illnesses: Salmonella, Campylobacter, your nasty E. coli like the 01H571, the various toxins, whether it's Shiga toxins. These are toxins produced by the microbes. So just like bacterial pathogens, we can look at some parasites on page 1: Crypto, Giardia, Entamoeba.
And just real quick for people, when you get something like food poisoning, if you have the resources, go test after. I came to you when I was 18 years old, 19 years old. And I was like, hey, I'm having acne that's not going away, but I also got really sick in Costa Rica. And you were like, dude, we're running a GI map test. Came back cryptosporidium, and we cleared that out. My health improved so much. It's one of the reasons why I went down this rabbit hole of health of like, oh my God, it was within a few months of just using herbs. We did herbal protocol. It's kind of like difficult at times, the herbal protocol. You're like, you're getting something out of your body. And then my health was just from there, I would say like 80% better. And so that sent me down sort of the rabbit hole of health. But a lot of times people will get these food poisonings. They'll get, I was in Bali and I just got Bali belly, they'll call it. It's like you now have most likely a parasite living in your gut. And it's not some like freaky giant parasite living in your gut. It's just like, we need to go into the parasite thing a bit because it's just fascinating. And you can clear these with herbal protocols. This is one thing that Western medicine oftentimes misses, but that's been life-saving for me.
Correct. And people will say, well, hey, these things are pretty rare. Well, go on ChatGPT or Google. You'll find a 1993, 1994 article. I forget. I think it's Milwaukee Times or whatever, right? There was a 500,000 person outbreak of cryptosporidium in 1993 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Wow.
All right. And I think 5 people died. Right. So it's, you may not have it at a pathological level like someone does, let's say in sub-Saharan Africa, where there just isn't water filtration, but you may have it where it's still a stressor on your body. So it's good to look at that for sure.
Yeah. And what happens if I just never got that crypto treated? Like if I just like kind of just didn't know about it, and I'm like, okay, I feel good. This is kind of the level of health I have. What happens in the body?
I get that question all the time, right? And so I have my theories of what happens. So first thing, the healthier IgA levels, the healthier your acids, and the healthier your enzymes, the more you can deal with it, the more you can handle it. The question is it like driving your car with your e-brakes up? I mean, it's like if you have a new car, like your new Lexus, right? You could drive that thing maybe with the brake on a little bit and you can handle it, right? Sure. But over time, it's going to put wear and tear on your body. So if you're in the optimal health function, it's not good to have your e-brake on when you're driving, number one. And if you have good IgA and good acid and enzymes, you may be able to deal with it. But then if you add more extra stress on your body, IgA drops, enzymes drop, acids drop, then symptoms start to come about. And so it's not at this level where you go and get massive tummy bug, right, from Bali. It could be at this in-between level. For sure. People don't realize 80% of your immune cells are in your gut. And so the more your gut is dysfunctional and the more you have gut stress, that weakens your immune system. And then weakened immune system makes you open to what? Potentially cancer and other conditions, because healthy gut health is important. I mean, was it Mechnikov, gastroenterologist from the 1900s, said life and death starts in the intestinal tract, colon typically.
Nice. Now let's move more through the GI map tests. I just had to talk about some of the parasite stuff because I have personal experience with it. Moving into, I mean, H. pylori would be a good one to hit. But just keep on going through the GI
so
map.
we're through page 1, right? And then at the bottom of page 1, we have, you've talked about on your podcast, your tummy issues in Italy, right? That you get your adenovirus, your potential your adenovirus is one more big virus there. I can't think of it. You got your rotavirus, the different viruses in the intestinal tract that can kind of hit your tummy and be like more of a thing that kind of stresses you out, but you're over it in a couple of days. So that can be a big thing. Top of page 2, we have our H. pylori, right? 1,000 cells or higher is considered positive. And then you have your virulence factors down below, right? OIP-A, VAC-A, VERB, right? These are just cytotoxic proteins produced by the H. pylori that can make it more virulent, stronger, more symptomatic. You could still have H. pylori at a lower level, a couple hundred cells, right? And it could still be problematic. And so I always look at the patient. If I see anything and I see symptoms, we're still going to look at knocking that down.
And when H. pylori goes untreated, if someone has like those symptoms, it can basically lead to ulcers and potentially stomach cancer.
Correct. Yeah. So if you look at the person that found H. pylori, the guy's name is Marshall. He did this work, I think, in the early 80s. He won a Nobel Prize for it. But people were like, dude, what are you talking about? He literally could not get studies done. He gave H. pylori to himself to see what was happening with his own gut health. So it's kind of like Kilmer, McCulley, and homocysteine, right? The whole other, we can talk about that later. But he wasn't really believed. And then he had to give it to himself, saw it, and then eventually got a Nobel Prize. Medicine caught up with it.
Wow.
Half the population have it. And so it may or may not be a big deal, but if it's at a high enough of a level and we have symptoms that connect to it, right? Indigestion, gastritis, gastroparesis, maybe just we're not digesting our food, that dyspepsia feeling, we don't feel like we're breaking it down. We want to look at it for sure.
And that happened to me. I don't know, it was probably like 2 years ago at this point. I was getting some nausea after I ate. And that was weird for me. And this was after I got sick in Mexico, and then I was like, I'm getting some nausea. We ran GI map. We saw elevated H. pylori. We knocked it down with some mastic gum supplement was the main thing, and some other herbs, and that nausea went away. So it's like, it's that simple. Whereas, you never know, guys. Like, let's say I just didn't know about any of this stuff. It's like, okay, well, now I have some cryptosporidium living in my gut, and then I have H. pylori, and let's say I just don't know about these things whatsoever. The way this goes for a lot of people is they end up at the doctor with now, oh my God, my stomach really hurts. And the doctor looks at that and goes, you have ulcers, you have potential cancer in your stomach. Like, hey, like, sorry, because what would happen, or what is the way that traditional doctors test for H. pylori versus someone like yourself?
Great question. So I have to know both sides of it. So, because when you compare and contrast, there's some things conventional medicine does really well. And so you have to understand, does what they say make sense and get to the root cause or not? So typically you're going to have either a stool antigen test or a breath test, right? Stool antigen, it's either there and they're using a dye and they're looking at under a microscope. Can I see it? Okay. It's either there or not, right? That's called qualitative. It's either positive or negative. We're going to use something that's quantitative. We're going to look at PCR technology and look at how many DNA compounds we can see or particles we see. And so we get a much more of a threshold. Is it negative? But is it negative? Is there some there, right? So that's helpful. And the breath testing, where you give some urea solution, and that urea goes and hits the H. pylori enzyme urease. So that enzyme comes from protein metabolism. That urease then spits off, it's going to spit off ammonia, which is a pH of 11. So we know, based on optimal health, the gut should be around 2. So that starts to push the pH up higher. Now it's less acidic, more alkaline. So your stomach acid's actually dropping. So that's part of where like indigestion comes. It's going to create inflammation in your stomach. Starts to wear away the goblet cells mucus secretion in the stomach. So it becomes a little bit more sensitive, a little less padding to deal with the acidity. So that's an issue. And that's part of the reason why they're like, oh, we need to lessen the acid. But it's like, well, the H. pylori is already dropping it more. Right. And so then, well, what's the right physiology? So my thing is we got to get that mucosal thicker, right? Knock down the microbes and maybe add in some acid if we're not causing irritation. Maybe lean into more enzymes or bitters if the acid's too much. And so that's where the arts comes in of functional medicine.
For sure. Absolutely. So now we're on page what of the gut test? I forget.
And so just talking about that, right? So what comes back positive on that urea test? We have ammonia and a bunch of CO2. And so they're measuring this indirect CO2 increase on a breath test.
Okay.
And the stool test, we're just trying to see it based on it being dyed on this stool antigen, right? So that's kind of how conventional medicine works on H. pylori. Now, GI map, we talked about the PCR. So it's a little bit more sensitive, actually a lot more sensitive. PCR is about 2,000 to 3,000 times more sensitive than stool antigen. Wow. So we get a little bit more of a window in there, which is helpful because if you come back and you're negative, maybe you got like 500 cells on a GI map. And maybe that's something we should work on, right? But I tell patients, you have the right to have more than one issue going on at the same time. So it could be H. pylori plus different bacterial imbalances, maybe SIBO, maybe another parasite, maybe fungal overgrowth. It could be all those things. So now we're at the bottom of page 2, and we're looking at beneficial bacteria. We're looking at probiotics like Bifidobacter, like Lactobacillus. We're looking at mucinophilic bacteria like Akkermansia, very helpful. We're looking at Roseburia, which are like, these prebiotic bacteria that are like really important for like creating butyrate in the gut. So that's kind of next. And then we look at our phylobacteria, our Firmicutes and Bacteroides. And so these are important. When you go carnivore or low carb, they can go really low. When you're like metabolically insulin resistant, you get this Firmicutes Bacteroides ratio imbalance. So those are some things there.
Okay, awesome. And now organic acids test and Dutch test. I'd love to hit.
So last page though, I should say there's 2 pages left on the GI map.
The GI map test is in depth, guys. Yeah.
So all the despotic bacteria, that's going to be your Proteus, your Morganella, your Citrobacter, your Klebsiella, your Pseudomonas, all those guys there. And then there's more parasites on the back page, and there's some yeast markers. And again, yeast, it's hard to get back yeast on a GI map. And so if it comes back, it's an issue. Yeah. Even at a low level. All right. And then we have some intestinal health stuff minus the H. pylori. Minus the parasites and worms. Now we have enzymes, which are really important, like elastase. If elastase is low, I always assume hydrochloric acid's low because acid's an important stimulator for elastase. Okay. We look at steatocrit, that's malabsorbed fat in the stool. We're looking at immunoglobulin A. Like you asked the question, like why are some people sensitive to H. pylori or not? Well, maybe the IgA is really low. Okay. And then we talked about calprotectin or eosinophilic protein or lactoferrin. These are inflammatory proteins that could be high. All right. And then gluten antibodies, also a big one too.
Nice. I bet my gluten antibodies are a little high after my Italy trip.
Yeah.
But I don't really eat gluten too much other than that. So basically, and so how the GI map is done, guys, when you work with a functional medicine doc is that this test gets mailed to you right to your door. You mail in a sample of your poop, which is weird for a lot of people, but that's the way to look at the gut. It arrives to the lab, results take whatever, a week or something like that. And then you see all the results. You see, and I've done many of these GI map tests, and you basically get to see all the results. You go over it with somebody like yourself. And from there, you get to get an amazing snapshot of what's going on in the gut. And so there's such basic stuff, guys, that can level up your health. Like, oh, Akkermansia is low. Like that was low on one of my gut tests. Like take Akkermansia as a probiotic. So like instead of just like, oh, I'm just going to buy a probiotic, you know, because, oh, everyone's into these probiotic supplements lately and just like, let me blast myself with probiotics because I heard it's great. It's like, you can really get granular with the GI map test and kind of see like, no, which bacteria am I low in?
Correct.
Maybe I could just supplement with that because for some people, just taking a bunch of probiotics, it can cause like histamine issues. And with this, you can get more specific.
Correct. Yeah. I always try to do foods first and then use supplements, strategically.
Yeah, absolutely. Dutch tests. Let's look at the Dutch test.
So first thing on a Dutch, we're looking at cortisol rhythm. How's cortisol fluctuating throughout the day? What's normal physiology? So cortisol is typically on a circadian rhythm fashion. So cortisol goes up with the sun. So light stimulates cortisol. That's why at night we want like really dark environment.
Oh, my house is like dark. I have like candles. It's like the 1800s.
Yeah, and just get your lights on a dimmer switch so you
For
can
sure.
get the light down 90%, you know, and then you can at least have a low grade stuff or get low blue light night bulbs.
Yeah.
All my
I
kids-
have those. I have like the Huga bulbs. And then, you know, if I do want to watch a movie or a show with my wife, like at night, I will throw on the blue blockers. And I've learned that the blue blockers, they have to be those orange tinted ones. A lot of these companies have come out with ones that don't have any orange tint to them and then just kind of BS. But yeah, I'm like, at night, I'm trying to avoid bright light 100%.
Yeah. So that's good. And again, everyone's a little bit going to be more sensitive or less. The more sensitive you are, then you want to go more drastic. You may just need to do an in-between kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Just definitely get the lights down. That's an easy thing out of the gate. Okay. So what was the question? So no, Dutch. Okay. So circadian rhythm, right? Higher in the morning, lower at night. So we're looking at free cortisol, right? That's your 2 to 5% of your cortisol is free. Okay.
And because with this Dutch test, you're taking multiple samples throughout the day.
Yes.
So you're not getting just one snapshot of blood in the morning of here's, you know,
Correct.
10 a.m. I'm at this lab, you know,
Yes.
I'm getting my blood drawn and that's my cortisol, that's my testosterone, that's all my data. It's
Correct.
like, no, let's look at the actual rhythm because people fear cortisol. Oftentimes it's like this thing of like, so cortisol is bad, but what you're saying is you want your cortisol to go high in the morning and you want it to sort of
Natural.
come down. Like it has to have a rhythm.
So you have your cortisol awakening response where you wake up. There's your cortisol snapshot. Within that first 2 hours, it should increase 50%. So we should have this big bump in that first 2 hours. And then we're going to test it again around noontime or around 5 and then bedtime. And then if you wake up, we'll look at it again. So this wake up, and then gently down throughout the day. And then it could also come up prematurely due to other things. Parasites and infections have an opposite circadian rhythm that we do. And so when they're active at night, or when we're detoxifying between 1 and 3 a.m., sometimes we can start to see cortisol issues because of that. And so that can start to throw off the bedtime routine.
And so when people are like, oh, I have insomnia, I don't know why, I just
Yeah.
randomly, like I can't fall asleep or I wake up at 3 a.m., like,
Yeah, and my secret for that is this. Bedtime, if we control the variables. So the first thing is blood sugar. So we may do a little collagen, magnesium, electrolyte smoothie, maybe a little coconut oil, maybe a tiny bit of honey just to manage blood sugar.
Totally.
That's checked off our list. We get some electrolytes, we get some magnesium, good fat, good protein, time release it. Secondly, maybe a binder at bedtime, maybe a little binder, maybe a little bit of NAC just to support the liver and to bind up any chemicals or toxins that are being released by the liver gallbladder at night. And then have a little of that smoothie by your nightstand. If you wake up, you can hit it. And then worst case, my plan C is we get maybe a melatonin, amino acid, relaxing herbal spray by your nightstand and just have it. Because part of the stress is you wake up and you're like, oh crap, I need to get back to bed. And if you just do something that's going to help you, sip of this, spray of that, your brain kind of is like, all right, it kind of relaxes.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a good protocol. So now with the Dutch test, you've got a snapshot of this cortisol rhythm.
Now we're going to see cortisol amount. So now we get to see the whole day. So we get to see the whole cortisol amount. All those readings, there's a free cortisol. There's also a total behind it too. So now we get the total versus the typical blood test is going to be a total of just that AM snapshot. And the problem with the conventional test is most people don't like needles. And so that creates a stress response in and of its own.
Sure, yeah.
And so you may get a normal cortisol, but it's not, or a high cortisol, but it's not, right? And so we want to mitigate that.
And so like typically like you'll see certain things, I'm sure, like, oh, your cortisol is going up a bit, around 4 or 5 p.m. And I know you like to give people some ashwagandha and stuff like that, which there's multiple studies showing that it can help bring down cortisol. So like you can sort of time that to help bring down cortisol. And then with some people, their cortisol won't go up enough. And a lot of time, I think that's actually becoming more and more common. I swear, like people are just so burnt out. I don't know if it's like all the short form media we consume or like what it is, but I think a lot of people feel like flat just like throughout the day. And like I see this with some athletes too, because overtraining probably, then you combine that with some bad nutrition and then like they just feel so flat. Would that probably be like a low cortisol, and what would you do there?
Yeah, so flatter cortisol rhythm can mean flatter cortisol levels and or mood, right? And so we can do things as simple as just where's your blood sugar timing? Where's your nutrient timing on that? I want to make sure we're not skipping meals. We're not doing any OMAD stuff.
Yeah.
I want to make sure there's enough nutrition coming in and then our macros are dialed in. Because if we're doing too much carbs or maybe not enough, I always look at the macros and the nutrient content and the meal timing first. That's the first thing. Supplement wise, then if it's overly low, we can use things like licorice as long as our blood pressure is not too high. We can use things like ginseng and other adaptogens, even just B vitamins.
Yeah.
Get your B vitamins dialed in.
Oh,
Make sure that's
some
good.
methylated B vitamins.
Yeah.
Like, working with you and dialing in a lot of like my mitochondrial health.
Yeah.
Oh, it's given me so much more energy. Like the way I refer to it is like, it's like this like deep energy. Like sometimes I think they might think their cardio is bad. Like, oh, I struggle with cardio, but it's like, if you're doing the proper training and you're still feeling tired during some of that stuff, like it might be your mitochondrial health. Like your actual cells aren't able to produce the energy, or they get so run down. And so like CoQ10 has been huge for me there.
And this is why I want to look at a Dutch test next to an organic acid, because I want to look at markers 21 through 32, 33. I'll look at mitochondria. It'll look at CoQ10. I'll be able to get aspects of creatine from that too. I'll be able to look at B vitamins, ALA. So I want to look at both those side by side, and then even neurotransmitters.
Yes, that's been huge. So so the Dutch test, did we cover most of what that?
So we hit the cortisol rhythm free. Okay. Now we have the total. That's the other 95 to 98% comes from the total. Okay. And so I want to make sure, is there enough? Like, do we have enough based on that range? It's usually like 2,000 to 10,000, right?
Yeah.
Are we at least 5, 6 in that middle range or higher? Is there an imbalance? Do we have a high amount of free and a low amount of total? We see that commonly with thyroid patients and anemic patients, because their metabolism is so low, they're not clearing out the free. So the free accumulates. So we have low total, high free, we could see anemia, low iron. If it's the other way, if it's low free, high total, that it could be HPA axis dysfunction, that feedback loop upstairs from the brain and pituitary is just starting to get crossed. Right? Okay. It's getting resistant. It's just chronic stress and inflammation.
And now we get into the organic acids test. So the Dutch test, by the way, is that saliva?
It can be, but it's mainly going to be urine.
Urine, yeah.
And it can be. And then one last thing also, we look at methylation clearance on that test too. So there's in the bottom left-hand corner of page 3, there's a 2-methoxy, 2-hydroxy kind of estrogen marker that looks at estrogen clearance. Okay. And that's important, because if you're a guy and you're not clearing out your estrogen, that's a problem.
For sure.
First off, I'm like, well, where's the excess coming from? And then you should have the nutrients to clear it off anyway.
Totally.
So I want to look at both those.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been certain compounds for me that have been really beneficial there. I mean, you look at some stuff like nettle leaf, and then DIM, diindolylmethane, like that's been NAC. NAC is amazing for helping get some of that estrogen out. Because, people like often ask, like, why do we even need any supplements? And like, we both tell people, like, hey, real food, dial in your sleep, exercise. If you're not there, like, supplements are like, you need to get that stuff dialed in and then start to look at supplements. But we live in like a modern world. It's like, I joke about it, but it's like a kind of a meme, but it's like real. Like if you're grabbing a receipt at the store, like you're exposed to some BPA. And look, guys, it's not the end of the world if you grab a receipt. I have some funny jokes about that where I'm like, I can't touch that receipt. But it's like you can mitigate some of this by being like, all right, I'm going to take some N-acetylcysteine. It's a modern solution to a modern problem. And that's what a lot of these tools are.
Yeah.
It's just basic stuff. So
I got a story about that. So my son, he will lecture people on why the receipt should just stay on the counter.
Yeah.
And then also anytime he sees anything with red in it, he goes to the parent and is like, hey, by the way, there's red 40 in that. And that's going to cause a bunch of issues. And there was one time we're out to eat, right? We're getting a cauliflower pizza. The family across from us let their kid eat the dessert first before the pizza. And my son goes over and is like, oh, that's going to impact his blood sugar. Yeah. That's going to cause some craving problems. Yeah. And he was just lecturing. I love that. I was just dying. I'm like, oh my God. My mini me.
Yeah, exactly. He wants to be like dad. Yeah. I love that. That's hilarious. That's what my kid's gonna be like for sure. So now we get into we're in organic acids.
So one last thing, then we have all estrogens, right? All the different types: E1, E2, E3, testosterone, DHEA, your different androgens, and then we have some other organic acids. They do a little add on there just to kind of hit those.
And like pregnenolone and DHEA are these precursors, right, to testosterone. You're actually banned if you're like a WADA athlete. My Olympians watching. Shout out RBY. Wrestler, you cannot take DHEA.
I will tell you though, I have people that have done that I know.
It's way harder because it's like a natural.
It's so natural, and if you microdose very low, it will barely even come back. Because DHEA typically is used like 100 plus milligrams. People that microdose are using 3 to 5 milligrams, maybe 10 over multiple doses throughout the day. And if you do that, it's like almost. But hey, don't blame me though.
Okay? So like some pregnenolone and DHEA can sometimes be used as a supplement to boost up some of that cortisol, right, or some of that testosterone as well. Like some of those,
So pregnenolone, it's the mother of all hormones. So it goes cholesterol, pregnenolone, right? people, well, why don't you just get it from cholesterol? Well, it's a lot of energy that goes from cholesterol to pregnenolone to make that. There's a lot of enzymatic activity to make that conversion. So giving a little bit can be helpful. Then that goes to 30 different adrenal hormones. It'll primarily go to some of the cortisol. It'll also go to your mineral corticoids. So we talk about like electrolytes. We can go into that, why that's so important. When you're stressed, you just pee out your electrolytes, right? And so giving some pregnenolone can actually help the mineral corticoids to help you hold on to your electrolytes. That's big. And then some of it can trickle down to your sex hormones. And then DHEA will primarily go down to your sex hormones. Like supposedly with guys, maybe only 5% of sex hormones like testosterone come from DHEA. Women, it's a little bit higher. So it's more important to women. And so sex hormones can be altered with DHEA sulfate as well.
Interesting. So now you have that snapshot from the Dutch test, and then we look at organic acids.
Yeah. So markers 1 through 9 on the organic acids, we're going to look at yeast, candida. Oxyglutaric, tartaric acid, diarabinose. These are going to be your typical candida yeast markers. If we're looking at like the mosaic test, there's going to be a couple of markers that have this orange little parentheses next to it. Those are going to be colonized mold markers as well. And so that could be get a little mold factory in the gut.
We'll definitely hit on mold. Very common thing. People live in moldy environments. Some people, depends on your genetics, are going to be really sensitive to it or less sensitive, but like there's so many things you can do in your house, which we've gone over. I do at my home of preventing this mold. And when you move into a new place, figuring this out, we're going to get into all that. But yeah, so that mosaic test gets to kind of see some of that mold.
And it's not perfect to tell you, do you have mold in your environment? You got some stuff in the gut, right? Like I got some whole food, like organic raspberries last week, and I'm putting it in my Coca-June yogurt, and I'm like eating it. I'm like, oh, there's just a little bit of mold in that strawberry. And I'm like, screw it, I'll take some hydrochloric acid, you know?
Sure.
But it's like, you can get some from that too, right? And it's going to be really common with like grains. So for instance, right, we talked about glyphosate. Why is glyphosate such a big deal in the last 10 years? It's been there for a while. It's used as a pesticide, right? Where it's programmed to be resistant to it. Therefore, you can drop it by a plane. People don't know it. They're using glyphosate to desiccate the wheat. What the hell does that mean? It means it dries it out. Why are you drying it out? To prevent mold and fungus. They're using it as a preventative fungicide by drying it out to decrease chance of molding.
Gotcha.
And so you're getting this extra residue to prevent the mold. So that's a big deal too. So that's why I think our gut healths are more impacted, because it's negatively impacting our brush border and increasing gut permeability.
Yeah, and that's not going to be seen. And people go, oh, well, look at this PubMed paper. These people did a study on glyphosate, and they showed, they did a basic blood test, and they were fine. It's like this doesn't get into like to do an actual study on glyphosate. It's just not going to happen. You would need to run something like you're saying, like these 3 lab tests. You need to figure out if one, they have glyphosate, then you need to run like a GI map test. You would need to run like a before and after. They would need to run like a glyphosate free diet for 3 months, and then like a glyphosate. It's just not going to happen. So.
And to get enough of the raw material to run it, you'd probably be sued into oblivion by Bayer.
Yeah,
right? Because you got to get it. Like, where are you going to buy it from? And they may sue you for using their product, right? And so so here's the problem with research, right? Over 50% of research is not able to be reproduced, right? That just tells you it's tobacco science, right? And the gold standard of research is what? Oh, it's in JAMA. It's in New England Journal of Medicine. Who cares if the data cannot be reproduced? How about we make the gold standard? Hey, the study can be reproduced. Hey, this person did it there. This person did it there. Like, now we can put some weight on the study. We should put weight based on reproducibility, not based on what journal it is. Because we saw 5 years ago when this thing kind of encapsulated the whole world, and certain studies and journals just kind of like went along with it. We won't talk about that. But so reproducibility over journal prestige.
Yeah, for sure. So we're on page 1 of the organic acids.
Yeah. So the candida marker, yeast marker / mold marker is good. Again, if you have colonized mold, doesn't mean you have it in your home. We may want to look at it. I like plate testing because if it's in the air, right, it lands on your plate, and then you can grow it.
And you can buy those on like Amazon.
Yeah, you can run some cheap ones.
So you get a plate basically, and you like leave it out. And if mold grows, you can kind of see what's going on in that room.
Yeah. So just to keep it simple, justinhealth.com/store. I have a mold section, and you can look at it. Redirects on Amazon is different plates that I like that are cheaper. I also use immunolytics for more official testing. So if it comes back positive on one of the cheaper versions, so how it works is get a plate, right? Agar plates, spread it out throughout the home. Make sure the plate's taken off. Write down the date and the location. Open it for 2 hours. Close it up. Right? Put it in your shelf for 7 days. Come back to it and take pictures, see where it's at. Some of the plates like CanQ will do a mold analysis via email. So this is just a good rough estimate. Now, if you come back positive, then redo the real test. Then you can see, okay, it's exactly penicillium, or it's maybe it's a mold from outside, right? Because outside we have decaying plant matter, right?
Sure.
Cladosporium, microsporium, right? Different mold kind of things from decaying matter. It's not as big of a deal. But if you're asthmatic or you have breathing issues, you want it out of your home, right? So that's a good kind of baseline test out of the gate for mold. And then, for mold, like what causes mold to grow? You need moisture. So if you're in a high humidity environment, right? Go to ChatGPT. Say, what is the average humidity percentage per my zip code per month? And if you're on average above 55%, you probably need at least a dehumidifier.
Yeah.
For those, seasons that it's on the higher side for sure.
Yeah, we're running dehumidifiers in my house. Like Sophia's it's like a constant thing she's doing, just emptying these things.
Yeah.
Just pulling so much water out of the air. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, so you can do some of those mold tests, and a lot of people, you can like tell your landlord once you do those legit tests of like, hey, there is mold in my place. We need to do some remediation or whatever that is. I mean, yeah.
And Evan turned me on to some infrared devices you can get, a couple $100. And so you can get an infrared device and see if you see any imbalances there, because maybe the insulation's off. When insulation's off, you can get more moisture coming in. And then maybe that's where it makes sense to do a tap test against a certain area. Or, you can do a tape test, right? We can put tape on the baseboard and pull it off, send it to the lab too, and you can see if something's off. But if humidity's high, that's a cause of chronic mold. It's more insidious versus like a leak coming in, right? So you have the chronic slow and steady, right? And then we have the pipe burst, right? And then you got to just get that taken care of right away. So we have the humidity, and then we also have the particulate in the air, right? So acutely, it could be like drywall. It could be baseboard, right? From a flood, or it could be just the dust particles in the air.
Yeah.
And that's where a really good HEPA filter is just essential.
For sure. Yeah. We have some air doctor filters and other filters in my house.
And then also having activated carbon with it or fulvic minerals is great, because then that will pull out the off-gassing of the paint, the drywall, the flame retardants. There's so much of that crap around, and so that gets that out too.
Nice. Okay, so we first page of that.
So 1 through 9. Now we're in some of the bacteria, like 10 through 18. That's where we're going to look at C. diff. We're going to look at some other just benzoate. It's just general dysbiotic markers. It's not telling you a specific bacteria for those. Benzoate, hippurate. It's just telling you more dysbiotic general bacteria.
And what are those?
Oh, this could be like Klebsiella. This could be Morganella. This could be Proteus. This could be Citrobacter.
Okay.
Right? It's not specific on that. Kind of like a breath test. Breath test will just tell you, oh, you have this big elevation in hydrogen or methane. It's not telling you the bacteria, it's just telling you, oh, it's a hydrogen dominant, methane dominant bacteria.
Gotcha. And organic acids test, just for people wondering, it's super easy. You pee in a cup.
Yeah.
It send it off.
That
one's like the easiest one to do. Okay, so continue going on.
Yeah, so we got the different general bacterial markers. And again, I tell patients, if I see it on the GI map and it's not on it's okay. We don't need to have total agreement.
Sure.
Most of the time we do, but we may not. Okay. Secondly, it'll look at C. diff. For Cresol, there's a couple of C. diff markers on there. And if that's elevated and the GI map is not, because it's also page 1 of the GI map is C. diff too. I forgot that one. Toxin A, MV. All right. Both together are like a problem. And then so the O test may pick that up while the GI map doesn't. And that's okay too. And the Candida is mostly picked up on the O and not the GI map.
Gotcha.
And then from there, page 3 at the very top is oxalates. So this is the big one. People are like, oh, I got to cut out my spinach. It's like, well, a lot of times oxalates can be produced by the yeast in your gut.
Interesting.
And so it could just be the Candida producing it. And so unless someone has a lot of weird joint pain or like kidney stones or like interstitial cystitis kind of stuff, I don't typically worry about oxalates that much unless there's a clinical presentation, because there's a lot of oxalates in healthy foods.
For sure.
And I don't want to get people, I'm already making these changes over here. Adding more stuff can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it depends on how motivated
you hear
the
that,
patient is.
you Saladino fans. Hey, I love Saladino. I love animal base. I think it can be useful, but people have gotten so crazy when I post myself eating some broccoli or sweet potatoes, they go, oxalates. And it's like, guys, first of all, there's barely any oxalates in a cup of cooked broccoli. There's a small amount in a cup of cooked sweet potato. And I'm also getting so much potassium, some beta carotene. Like, these are healthy foods. And like you're saying, and you've seen thousands and thousands of patients, you just don't see issues in most people, especially if you have somewhat of a healthy gut. These foods are going to be beneficial because the fiber in them feeds your beneficial gut bacteria. You're going to get unique nutrients from them, which are difficult to get from other sources. And oxalates just aren't something to be concerned about.
Here's how I look at it, right? Do we have a lot of elevated yeast? If we do, that could be a driving factor. Do we have the classic oxalate symptoms, right? kidney issues, bladder issues, weird muscle pain. If not, I'm less worried. And then number 2, you can take a high one and make it to a medium one by cooking it.
Yeah.
And then we can just avoid like eating tons of raw spinach. Just try to be more medium and low and try to cut out the big high ones. And then if you're really curious, maybe do a 1-week trial of just low.
Totally.
And keep everything cooked. And then last but not least, people don't know this, extra potassium, magnesium displays oxalates. So just rev up your potassium, magnesium supplementation to push out the oxalates.
Totally. Anybody that tells me, hey, I've had kidney stones before, I'm like, you should be on a magnesium glycinate. You should be taking your potassium. Like, that's just duh. I mean, everybody should be on a magnesium glycinate. Okay, so that's really interesting. So you get that data from there. And what's next?
All right. So now we're going to be on markers 19 through 21. That's going to be typically CoQ10 markers. Look at more CoQ10 specifically. And now we're on 21 through 32. We're going to be looking more at energy production. And so, I mean, I can go to the individual markers, but generally it's going to be looking at B vitamins, CoQ10, carnitine, creatine. And it doesn't look at it specifically per se. There are some organic acids that lean more to like certain B vitamins and certain CoQ10, but it gives me a good window. And I like to see it more in that 2nd through 4th quintile, if you will. Overly high, overly low is problematic.
Yeah, so what happens to somebody when they're low in these B vitamins, they're really low in CoQ10? What do you typically see?
Great question. So you're going to see energy issues. You're going to see mood issues. B vitamins are like the most important cofactors for brain neurotransmitter synthesis, all of these things. And it typically means malabsorption, right? Either the diet's really crummy too, a lot of processed food. Maybe we're not having enough enzymes or acids to break it down. Maybe there's infections impacting absorption. You see it a lot with vegan and vegetarian diets too. That could be a big one too.
They're just not getting their B vitamins in. And then what you're saying with malabsorption, some people can have a relatively good diet, but if they have underlying gut issues, their body literally isn't absorbing and processing the minerals and vitamins from the food they're eating properly.
Correct. The big 5, why an organic acid's out of whack. It's the same for everyone. They may lean in on different aspects of it, but number 1 is the diet. Is the diet nutrient dense? And are we cooking it too so we can absorb it? If you're Crohn's and ulcerative colitis and you're having big raw salads, like I don't care how healthy it is, or if you're like eating raw liver, like you probably need to put that in an Instapot, right? Or get it in a capsule, freeze dried. So we look at that, the diet. We make sure enzymes, acid, bile is dialed in. Number 2. Because if we don't have the digestive secretions to break it down and make it assimilatable, if you will, if that's a word, and we're not going to absorb it.
Yeah, and for normal people, like stress can reduce your enzyme function, alcohol use. If you've done antibiotics, which neither of us are like, oh, never use antibiotics. They're overused, we would both say, but like sometimes
I can tell you when you should use it for sure. We can go into that. It'd be a whole other
for sure.
Yeah,
and just certain things like so I'll like up my enzyme content when I'm traveling, because I know it's like I'm off a plane, I'm here. Okay, now I'm gonna sit down and eat. It's just like my body hasn't had the same input as when I'm chilling at home. I'm cooking that food. I'm smelling the food, which starts to, start the process of releasing enzymes. And I'm taking, my 6 deep breaths before I eat, and so it's like up for a lot of people, they're just overly stressed. They're in a rush, and that enzyme function, your body just isn't cranking them up to digest your food.
Yep. And then we need the acid to activate the enzymes because most enzymes are pH driven, right? So pepsinogen to pepsin, we need that nice low acidity to trigger it. And then, of course, all that food gets like mixed up, and that's called chyme, and that chyme gets released into the small intestine, and that acidity triggers cholecystokinin to release bile. It also triggers chymotrypsin, trypsin, lipase from the pancreas, and so all that starts here. It creates this domino cascade of better and more digestion. And so, hitting the big 5, right? So we talked about the diet, the nutrient density, the digestion from an enzyme, acid, bile standpoint, stress. Because you talked about it earlier, you kind of dovetailed perfectly. Stress, emotional stress will shut down your enzyme acid because of the fight or flight response. And think about it, right? When you're running or fighting, the last thing you want is blood in your intestinal tract. You want it in your muscles, running and fighting and fleeing. And so that's the reason why it moves away. It's part of a blood flow, kind of like an air traffic controller response. Like, okay, blood go there, away from there, and that shuts down your digestion. Okay. And then, so it could be an emotional stress issue. It could be poor sleep, right? Poor sleep is a big deal. Sleep in and of itself, like sleep deprivation for like 2 weeks. This was a college kid study. They were pre-diabetic in 2 weeks. Yeah. With like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. And so what does high blood sugar do? Now you're depleting lots of B vitamins, right? Now you're depleting mitochondrial nutrients. And then 4 is toxicity. That could be living in a moldy home. What does mold do to mitochondria? Just go on ChatGPT, say mold studies and mitochondria. You'll see all kinds of connections of that fatigue. Heavy metals as well. Heavy metals can jack up your electron transport chain and the Krebs cycle, right? And then 5, genetic. Like There's a study, a book by Roger Williams called Biochemical Individuality. In that book, he talked about people needing different amounts of CoQ10, different amounts of
Mhm.
potassium. People have MTHFR issue. They need activated folate, activated B12. And
Yeah.
so there could be different amounts.
Mhm. So now we have all that information from the organic
Yeah.
acids test.
So we're in mitochondria function there. Okay. Now, next, we're going to skip into neurotransmitters.
Mm.
We're looking at serotonin, adrenaline, dopamine, multiple dopamine. We're looking at xanthuronate, kineuronate, B6 markers. We're looking at brain inflammation markers as well. Kineuronate, quinolinate. These are brain inflammation markers, or at least quinolinate is.
And so this is so fascinating because when people go, oh, like this is who I am, like I'm somebody who I'm just tired a lot, or like, oh, like I don't really get that excited about this, or I don't like doing the things that I used to do. It's like you are what is going on in your brain, and you can get a snapshot into this. And it's so obvious. It's like if your adrenaline is extremely low, you're not going to get excited about things because your brain needs like norepinephrine and dopamine, like you're saying, to feel certain ways. And if anybody doubts this, it's like if there was an imaginary thing that we could do to just crank up and down these things, you would feel crazy within seconds if we could do that theoretically. So you're getting a snapshot now into some of these neurotransmitters, which make up how we feel as a human being.
Correct. Yep. Your environment, right, is stronger than willpower. And by environment, I mean your nutrition levels, your hormone levels, your neurotransmitters, what's around you from a toxicity standpoint, from an inflammation standpoint. That is stronger than willpower.
Yeah, and for like young men out there, I get the question so often, like, how do I become successful? How do I crush it in life? Like this, that. It's like, dude, if your dopamine is all messed up, you are going to become a human being that doesn't have drive. And there's
Right.
no amount of, like listening to motivational stuff or trying to like, if your body literally isn't producing the proper neurotransmitters, you are not going to feel drive. And there's a lot of things at play there, but it's like, that's a simplified version of like, good luck. Good luck ever becoming successful
Right.
if your neurotransmitters are cooked. It's just like
100%.
you're fighting an extreme uphill battle if that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, there's like whipping the horse. That's like the gas in the gas tank. That's the energy. And then the plan, right? The plan is the purpose. The plan is how are you going to go about channeling that energy?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's amazing. Okay, so we look at those neurotransmitters on the organic acids test, and what are some of those some things you commonly see that you're looking at?
Great question. So B6 is very important. All right. So we could talk about this later. There's a lot of common medications that we see out there. A lot of it in the ADHD category. Think of Ritalin. Think of your methylphenidate medications, right? These medications commonly deplete neurotransmitters, and they deplete a lot of the cofactors, right? B6, copper, are important cofactors to make the brain chemicals. And so it's really difficult because a lot of the medications, when you understand the mechanism, it creates a customer for life because it's depleting the nutrients that are needed for this brain to recover on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people get prescribed a medication where I'm not against, hey, something really happens bad in your family and a death happens and you can't recover and you need a medication to stabilize you for a day, a few days, a week, right? To get your life on track. I'm not against that. But
Sure.
the problem is, can you get off of it? Is
Yeah.
there a plan to get you off it, or are you stuck on it forever?
Mhm.
And what I've seen is people get stuck on these medications.
100%.
And then also when they try to get off, they get off too fast.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, if you're going to get off, we got to be slow and methodical about it. And then also replete all the nutrients that we're missing so we
For
can
sure.
make it. And so I look at things both
They're,
sided.
they're never going to get in that framework
No.
unless they go to somebody like you. It's
Yeah,
not
no.
even, your normal doctor's not going to look at your mitochondrial markers, your neurotransmitter markers. Oh, your B vitamins. Oh, let's run a genetic test to see if you're a poor methylator and we need to get you on a methylated B vitamin. It's just, unfortunately,
No.
not a conversation that's ever being had.
And patients are like getting more keen on like, oh, I want to get off. And they go back to the prescriber and they take them off way too fast and they don't provide any scaffolding to fix the cofactors. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's horrible.
So
And
I'll tell people, hey, go back to your doctor, get a plan for what they say to taper. And I figure out what their plan is. It's usually like a month or 2 months. I'm like, all right, we're going to make it 3 to 6.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
going to go longer on that.
For sure.
And if you feel really good, you can push it, but loop in your doctor, let them know, the prescriber, because they're responsible in the whole thing.
How many people have you seen that come to you on, let's just hit ADHD meds or SSRIs, which are so commonly prescribed, and you clearly see what we just talked about with some of these lab tests? You clearly see, okay, their B vitamins are low, their neurotransmitters are in the tank, they have a low level gut infection, their cortisol rhythm is out of whack, and you get them on protocols that boost those back up, and they feel like a different person.
All the time. All the time. And there's a lot of marketing towards ADHD symptoms right now. I see lots of women who are like, "Oh, my kids have ADHD." I'm like, "Well, like what does that mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not like an infection, it's not a disease. It's a symptom presentation, but why? Why is that happening?" And so like for instance, my kids, been told like, okay, he may have some ADHD symptoms, but I'll bring him to a professional baseball game and he'll score the whole game,
Yeah.
both sides, professional scoring.
Yep.
He'll watch an NFL game and score it, right?
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, and he just gets very little video games at all. I'm like, well, he has the focus. It's part of it is just boredom versus focus, right? Those two different
100%.
things.
That was me, when I
Yeah.
was 13, I got in like trouble at school. So then a lot of it's a school pipeline.
Yes.
So, oh, this kid is, acting up in this class. They're not focusing. They're getting a bad grade in this class. We think that they might have ADHD, and then you take them to the psychiatrist. My mom took me to some psychiatrist, met with her once or twice, and it's like, boom, you're on an ADHD med.
Correct.
Thank God I didn't like how it made me feel. Took it a few times, and I was just like, oh yeah, mom, I'm taking it. And I would like throw it in the bush. Get some squirrel high on some meth is my joke. Like I don't know what happened to that stuff. But yeah, and it's like, I did this in a piece of content recently. I'm like, okay, so let's say I have ADHD. I'm a millionaire now. I'm successful.
Mhm.
So I'm obsessed with health. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with everything I do.
Yep.
And so it's like, sure, I get what people are saying where it's like, hey, this kid kind of thinks a certain way, or he's like, this is how they kind of are. And it's not maybe completely conducive to like getting good grades across the board in school. But it's like, once I got to college, I did extremely well. I got like a 3.8 GPA. Now in high school, there were some really good years and there were some rougher years. It's like, yeah, if I didn't like the way a teacher was or a class was, I'm not focusing.
Yeah, and the public school system is really designed for girls. Girls, when they're younger, they do really well. They're
Mhm.
able to focus, listen, sit in seats, focus, and boys aren't able to do that. Most
Yeah.
boys at younger levels, elementary school, they're thought of as defective girls in a way,
Mhm.
right? And boys need a lot more physicality. Their brain, the average boy's brain is not developed till 25, 30.
Yeah.
Where like the average female is like 18. There's a massive age gap there. And so that shows up with focusing and all this other things.
For sure. Yeah, it's amazing. So
When schools take away gym class, I'm like, it's the worst thing you could do for boys. Boys need massive outlet for their energy. Focus.
So now we've looked at some of these lab tests that you give, and now the last one I want to hit on briefly is when you would order some blood work, which we've done. Like I go to Quest, and there's so much more that you can just check the box. You can go do this like lab work
Yeah.
yourself, guys, if you really want. My Quest, it's like there's direct sources of this now, but
Yep.
there are so many markers that you can just get through blood that are accurate. So like, what do you look at in terms of like, like heart health? We've run some cool tests like LP little a, I believe. Like, yeah, like just getting some of that.
Okay. Do you want me to finish the organic acid part?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's,
Okay.
yeah. let's
So
go.
last bit, we'll look at carnitine, which is really important for especially if you're lower carb, you're more carnivore. Are we making enough carnitine to take the fatty acids and shuttle it into the mitochondria?
Mhm.
Right? The carnitine shuttle is like literally the shovel putting coal into the engine, which creates steam and then pumps the pistons, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we want to make sure carnitine's good, especially if you're lower carb. That's
And
important.
I just like I have acetyl-L-carnitine in my
Right.
pre-workout, and like I just like taking that because of what you're saying. Like it's like, okay, a little boost in mitochondrial health.
100%. And even in my, let's see here, I forget that it was not Guyton's Physiology is my biochem textbook, and it was talking about the carnitine shuttle,
Mhm.
and it literally said, "Oh, by the way, the rate-limiting amino acids to make carnitine are methionine and lysine," and it said, "and they are commonly deficient in a vegetarian diet." I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah.
Like even like physiology, biochemistry textbooks get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's too political. Like we can't even talk about nutrition. It's way too political, right?
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But so even physiology and biochem textbooks know that and see that,
Yep.
which is weird. So then we talk about carnitine. Then we're going to talk about pyroglutamate. We're going to look at N-acetylcysteine, glutathione precursors. Those are really, really important out of the gate.
So can you elaborate on those? So glutathione is this master antioxidant in your liver, and N-acetylcysteine is like a precursor to glutathione.
Yeah.
And yeah, just
So it's a tripeptide, right? So that means it requires 3 amino acids: glutamine, glycine, and cysteine. Cysteine tends to be the more rate-limiting one. We have less of.
Mhm.
And then we can recycle it with glutathione peroxidase, and vitamin C helps with the recycling.
Okay.
So vitamin C is important in recycling, but also the raw material is the most important.
Mhm.
All right. And then I think those are the big ones. There's some vitamin C. There's a couple other B vitamin markers that kind of come in.
And so what happens to
Yep.
somebody when their glutathione is low? We hit on this on a short form piece of Tylenol can lower your
My
glutathione
gosh.
levels. Alcohol obviously lowers your glutathione levels. So what happens to someone when like they get that glutathione extremely depleted. Like, what do you see in people that?
Well, it helps with oxidative stress, right? So anything that creates accelerated oxidation, whether it's mold, stress, lots of carbohydrate in your diet, inflammatory foods, emotional stress, poor sleep, anything that creates more oxidation, and oxidation is nothing more than you're losing electrons.
Yeah.
And something's coming in, it's buffering it, it's freely giving off electrons, stabilizing the outer ring of that cell. That's what it's doing.
Yeah.
It's buffering it. And then obviously it has the ability to help detoxification too.
Yeah, I love N-acetylcysteine. So now we're going to get into some of the stuff that you can see through blood. And then from there, guys, we're going to go into some specific sort of issues. But like these lab tests can change your life. So like I have to touch on these. Yes, they can be expensive. We'll get into like some specific costs, it could be interesting, but it's like, I don't care that they're kind of expensive. I'm going to tell you guys about this stuff because the price is going to come down and you deserve to know. There's people that have severe issues that you can fix it with this stuff and it's out there. And I feel like the information's not fully out there to people. So, blood work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a book that I wrote. It's called The Thyroid Reboot, thyroidreboot.com, all about thyroid. All right. And autoimmune thyroid issues, 1 in 5 people have it, at least women. I'm a guy, I have autoimmune thyroid. It's really common. And so I'm always a big fan of getting a full thyroid panel with antibodies. Conventional medicine is typically TSH, which is not a thyroid hormone. It's actually a pituitary hormone that talks to your thyroid. But it's still good to look. It's a good screening hormone, but it's very delayed, meaning if it's elevated, it's probably been elevated for a long time, or you probably have had thyroid issues for a long time.
What is the thyroid in general, like a quick summary of like, what does it do in the body?
So it's going to produce thyroid hormone, which has a metabolic effect on the entire body. Every single cell has a receptor site for it. So it's going to increase cellular reactivity, enzyme function, energy production, heat, right? And so it's going to help with everything. High levels of thyroid hormone, low thyroid hormone could also cause high levels of cholesterol because you're not breaking it down. So it's breaking it down metabolically. It's using it for building blocks for the body to make hormones, right? And so it's going to help from an energy standpoint throughout the whole body, temperature, blood flow as well. When thyroid's off, you're going to see mood issues. You're going to see bowel motility issues. You're going to see hair loss, hair growth issues on the eyebrows and the hair. You're going to have cold hands, cold feet, increased chance of radons, bad circulation, neurotransmitter stuff, all that.
Okay, awesome. So you like to get that thyroid with antibodies?
With antibodies, TSH, at least T4 free, T3 free, TPO, thyroglobulin. If we can run a reverse T3, great. If we can do a total and total T4, total T3, that's great.
Yeah. Awesome. And then what else do you like to run? I know we've run some kind of heart health panels.
So we can just start with conventional stuff. A CBC metabolic panel, great. So CBC is helpful. I want to look at red blood cells. Are we above 4.3, 4.4? I want to look at hematocrit, hemoglobin, just to screen out general anemia. Now, this is more important if you're vegan, vegetarian. I want to at least look at that. Those are late stage markers.
Yeah.
You'll always see it typically in ferritin and iron saturation before it goes there. So we'll run ferritin, iron saturation as well. Like to see where the immune cell's at, right? That's also going to be in a CBC. Do we have high levels of neutrophils above 70? Lower lymphocytes, common H. pylori pattern. People won't tell you that. So if I see that, I'm like, okay, we're definitely running some gut testing.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
Do we have just lower immune cells overall? I want to look at that. Next, let's see here in the CBC, and now we're in the metabolic panel. Do we have high levels of uric acid? That could be borderline insulin resistance, right? Above 5. Do we have ALT, AST, alanine, aminotransferase, aspartate aminotransferase? Those are our liver enzyme markers. Are they above 30?
Yeah.
That starts to tell me non-alcoholic fatty liver and maybe some liver stress. That's important there. Look at your proteins, your globulin, albumin, and total protein and creatinine and bun. So the one, they're looking at some kidneys there with the bun and the creatinine and then total protein. And then your albumin, globulin, tell me a little bit about dehydration. It could tell me about protein. Those are helpful too. Are we eating enough protein? And then your electrolytes, right? So we're going to look at potassium. We're going to look at magnesium. We're going to look at sodium chloride, anion gap. So that tells me a little bit about your electrolytes. Maybe red blood cell magnesium too. Gives me a really good window of electrolytes. And that's super important too.
Perfect. So now basically, so when you work with someone in an ideal world, they'd be able to get all that done. And you'd also have, like when you first start working with someone, you have a long conversation about their life, like their day-to-day life, because the emotional aspect, their relationships, just like you get a kind of snapshot of what their life looks like. You get a medical history, you get all these symptoms, because symptoms are where you guys start from. If someone's like, and then you kind of backtrack it with the lab work. If someone's like, you know what, I always have cold hands, cold feet, and you're like, okay, like let me look at this thyroid panel and see what's going on. And
Right.
I'm sure you can make assumptions when people come to you with symptoms. So we're going to get into some specific stuff, but I just want to tell you guys, like, that's in an ideal world what working with a functional medicine doc is like. Now, what I like about you is you will do your best to help people. If they come to you and they say, hey, I'm on a budget, I've saved up $1,500.
Yep.
What can I do? Can we just go through some basic pricing of, because there's two types of pricing. There's one, the lab tests. They just cost a certain amount and they get shipped to your door. And then that's like how much different lab tests cost. And then general ranges of what it costs to interpret these lab results and spend time with you looking at all these details. And that's going to vary for different functional medicine practitioners. And then the unknown thing is you're most likely gonna need some supplements to fix some of these things. Like I was talking, I got on some mastic gum. Oh, I take like GI Clear 4 from you when I took that for a gut thing, and now I take it when I go travel. I got like a specialized probiotic from you. That's gonna be the unknown cost.
Yep.
And what I also like about you is you have amazing deals on a lot of this stuff because you have like practitioner rates. But you're also like, hey, if you can go get it yourself for a better price, go get it. Let's dive into some of the cost.
Yeah. So first off, try to customize, right? There's a lot of people out there. I mean, you can go look at Atia, right? And his $250,000 program on 60
Yeah, there's a lot.
last
Like
week.
Gary Brecka, I know, has some like insane, thing. And then I appreciate some of these companies have popped up. I had the guy that runs Superpower in here, and they're more, some of these companies, like there was just the one that just came out. Did you see this? It's like some thing you attach that gives you like a blood draw. Like it takes like 20 minutes. And so they're like, oh, like then you mail this in. It's kind of cool. It's like people get so confused about lab testing. They don't know that they can just go to a Quest lab, or I forget the other one that's out there, and you just like make an appointment online, you get it, or you can even have people come to your house. Like it's easier than most people think, but there's a lot of these companies that are like trying to social media-ify this, where like you order this thing, you put this thing on your shoulder, you mail it back to us, and you get some blood results. I think that's cool, and they're making it more affordable, but it's still pretty much very basic stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, like let's get into some of the prices, like GI map. Like what does it cost? What's the actual lab test
So
cost?
first thing is customization. Like figure out, all right, what makes the most sense based on your physiology. I look at the symptoms, right? But then symptoms go up to the underlying stressors. What makes sense based on the history and the presentation of what systems are out of whack that are driving these symptoms. Conventional medicine's like, oh, you can't focus, Ritalin, Adderall, whatever, Vyvanse, your mood issues, here's your Lexapro. I'm looking at, okay, well, let's trace that back up to the gut. Let's look at the hormones. Let's talk about overall nutrition, diet, absorption. So then I'm going up to the systems, and then we try to like look at the underlying stress. Then after that, what physical, chemical, emotional stressors drove those systems to go out of balance. And then we'll look at it from a history standpoint and then run tests based on the different systems. So now, okay, patient comes in, I have their history. They've come in for a new patient consult. I've asked them a couple hundred questions. I understand what a day in the life looks like. I understand how long this has been going on for. Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Patients come in, they're like, I've been doing this, has been going on for 10 years and I'm getting worse and worse. Some are like, I've been getting progressively better because I'm watching your stuff, and then I'm a year or two in, I'm 80% better. And what else can I do? So people come in on these different tracks.
For sure.
That matters in regards to what I recommend.
Totally.
So figure out what path they're on. Are they on the improving path or on the devolving path? And then from there, I will make recommendations based on that. People could be like, I've been living in this moldy house for the last couple of years. Well, that may be a higher priority than a hormone test, but if we only can do one. Right? So it just depends on that patient's history and what I'm seeing. Now, that being said, you want pricing typically?
Yeah, like what is a GI map?
GI map's usually in the low $400 range. Dutch is usually going to be in that mid to low $400 range. I mean, blood testing could be anywhere between mid to upper 300s for the whole everything. Yeah. But it could be like your general CBC metabolic panel is like $40.
Yeah, and oftentimes you can get that done for free at the doctor. Say, can you send me my results? And you can send those to them. That can be done.
Patients have it. We'll look at it during a new patient consult. I'll go over it with them.
Yeah.
Some patients come in with hundreds of labs. And I'm like, all right, we got to set aside time to go over that. It's just too much. But if it's just simple stuff, we just look at it during that consult and go over it and see what's there. But I try to customize it to what that patient needs. And so, you're looking at between the low hundreds to mid $400 per test. And it's in that range. Blood tests can be cheaper. Some of the more comprehensive tests can be a little bit more expensive. So just
guys, like this is what I'm telling you. Like like, yeah, this isn't in the insurance model of healthcare. Your insurance isn't going to help you out here. Your normal doctor's not going to help you out. If you can afford it, and if you can run something basic like, hey, I'm going to run a GI map test and an organic acids test, and I'm going to go to my normal doctor, say the right things to get my CBC and hormones tested and vitamin D, and then I'm going to book with a functional medicine practitioner, and I'm going to give them those blood results. I'm going to get the GI map and the OAT test mailed to me. And it's like, if you can save up like $1,000, you can change your life. You can get data that can save your life 100%. And so I've heard it over and over again from so many folks, but it's like, you know, people will be like, I'm on my last leg. Like, I have depression. Like, I can't solve this. And it's like, those people will go to, or skin issues. I've had these skin issues. I can't figure out what's going on. I tried eating healthy. It's nothing works for me. You know, I'm on my last leg. And these people will go to you. You'll run these lab tests and it'll be like, look, right, there is massive discrepancies from you and a healthy person.
Correct.
And these can be fixed. And when you fix those, the body starts functioning better and their depression goes away, their anxiety goes away, their skin issues get better.
Correct.
It's unbelievable.
Yep, I agree. And what I recommend to patients is you start a house, if you ever build a home, it's the same thing every time. You grade the land, you make sure it's level, you put in some drainage, you put in a foundation in concrete, and you start from there. Then you frame it, then you do everything else afterwards. With patients, it's similar, right? I'm working on what the food is, what the food quality is, hydration, electrolytes, meal timing, sleep, and we just start from there, and then we can go up, right? And so we can either, build more of that house faster or just start with a simple foundation and then go up more slow.
Totally. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if your health is really dialed in, you can still work with a functional medicine practitioner just like I do. Like, we kind of almost have like a different conversation when we talk because we're skipping past a lot of the things. And like,
it's assumed like, oh yeah, I know your food's good. I know sleep is good. I know you're prioritizing.
Yeah, like we'll hit this stuff quick. It's like, you have an air filter. It's like, boom, yep, have the air doctor, have this HEPA air filter. It's like, all right, next thing. So I like how our talks, we move through stuff quick. So
I was in an interview with someone yesterday or a couple months ago, and it was very annoying because we're talking about things and they were like, well, what about this stress thing and this sleep? And I'm like, well, let's just like foundation check. Yeah. And that now we're into more nuanced stuff, right?
For sure.
But it gets tiring talking about the foundation every time. But it's like foundation. Yeah, yes.
So many people are like, especially people that follow me. It's like, they're like, I eat well. I pay attention to my sleep. I'm dialed in my supplements and they want to take it to the next level. Yes. This really is the next level for human performance. So let's get into some issues that a lot of people face and how to go about fixing them. The first thing we're going to touch on is acne and skin issues. This is a big one for me that you massively helped me fix permanently. And I can say that. Like, sure, certain things could flare me up if I chose to drink alcohol or get bad sleep or eat gluten, might get a little thing. But I control it now. So how can these lab tests that we talked about give you insight into the skin? And the skin is the body's largest organ. People will go to their doctor. They'll go, I have acne. They go, Accutane. What is going on? How do people fix acne? Because it can be a bit complex. It's different for every person. There's different types of acne. Dive into that topic.
Yeah. So with acne, what is it? So first off, we have this bacterial imbalance of Cutibacterium acnes, which is this bacteria on your skin, right? And so why is that bacteria there? So typically there's usually excess sebum production and excess keratin production on the skin. Now, why is that there? We just keep on going deeper, right? And so usually there's increased IGF-1 or insulin, some kind of a growth factor that's there, right? So why is that there? So we keep on going deeper. So conventional medicine's already just like, oh, here's some retinoids, here's an antibiotic wash, done. Like, they're not going deeper into, okay, why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And so when you keep on going into that, you're going to find that there's certain nutrients that we're low in, right? Whether it's zinc or vitamin A, there's usually excess insulin coming in, whether it's from carbohydrates, processed inflammatory foods.
And this is why you'll see some people in general, they'll be like, I cut out processed sugar and my skin got like 90% better. It's like, okay, like for that person, it was probably more of an insulin issue and that fixed it.
Yes.
And I think for a lot of people, like what they don't know is that there's a lot of studies on PubMed where they'll just give people with acne magnesium. There's a study where they just give them magnesium and they see like pretty big benefits there. And there's like before and after photos of like way less lesions. There's a study on vitamin B5 where they just isolate vitamin B5. They just give it and they
Pentafenic acid, high doses.
Yeah. And I take vitamin B5 for that reason. It's kind of like a preventative for acne. And like, you can take B vitamins and like the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to excrete them. And so like vitamin B5 before and after photos, but there's never going to be a study where it's like, let's dial in everything. And guess what would happen if you did that? And which we'll kind of get into. Your skin would get massively better.
And conventional medicine hates these studies because they just want to do a study on retinoic acid. They just want to do a study on clindamycin different gel. They just want to do a study on this antibacterial salicylic acid soap. They want to just control the variables. And with acne, it's not that at all. So I talked about the hyperkeratinization, right? The keratin's a protein that's being produced. And then when there's extra sebum, that causes the pore to kind of clog. And so having a topical routine can be helpful.
Totally.
It may be 80 to 90% in some people, but it will not be the root cause. Sometimes it's a combination of that plus the inflammatory foods, plus you have crappy digestion, plus you have bacterial overgrowth, plus you're not detoxifying your estrogen, right? Plus you have all this insulin resistance, right? So it's a lot of things. The more complicated it is, the more it's like 10 variables you got to do together. Easy stuff, it's 1, 2, or 3. And it's topical can be very helpful, but it's never going to be a cure. And some people, it's just, you don't even notice much until you do this plus everything else.
Yeah, totally. And so like through all that lab work that we just discussed, you can, and if somebody's suffering with acne, you can sort of see like what might be going on, and then you can use certain protocols to improve their skin.
Yeah, we can do higher dose retinol. And if I'm doing higher dose natural retinols, I may start with just food like beef liver and cod liver oil.
Yeah.
I may add in some natural vitamin A retinols. I'm going to test retinol. I'm going to see where we're at so we don't go too high. I'm going to tell patients to look for negative symptoms of dry eyes, dry skin, dry lips. We're going to look at their liver enzymes too. And so we can do that. There's like a lot of in-between stuff before you go to Accutane, which is like 7 to 8x what natural retinols are.
What is going on with Accutane? Like when you see people that have gotten on Accutane, because they'll put people on it very fast.
So Accutane's tretinoin. It's going to be a pharmaceutical grade retinol, much more potent, much higher. And there's going to be potential side effects that can happen. You can have permanent dryness, permanent dry lips, dry eyes, those kind of things. And so there's so many other things I think that can be done before that. And so I kind of make my differential recommendations of what's least invasive, least costly, least side effects to all the way to the bottom. That's always at the bottom.
Yeah.
Right. Now, again, you got to look at the patient. If someone's literally scarring, super cystic, we may want to jump to that faster, but usually that takes time. That doesn't happen overnight, right? Sure. Sometimes I get those patients. And so that's where we may go to more higher dose retinols, but you got to be careful. We're testing liver enzymes. We're looking at retinol. We're making sure the gut's dialed in. We're making sure food's dialed in. Topical routine's helpful. I'm a big fan of 10% sulfur soap with salicylic acid. It's been around for 100 years. It comes from volcanic ash. Yeah. And that's really good at breaking up keratin. And it's really good for cleaning up the sebaceous oil without overly drying the skin. I like witch hazel-based toners and toners to kind of pH balance the skin and not overly strip the lipid bilayer off. And I like moisturizing oils that are low on the comedogenic scale. That just means how likely to clog the pore. And so I like emu oil. Emu oil has been used in burn victim units, major hospitals. It's very anti-inflammatory, very healing, and it's hypoallergenic.
Nice.
So I like that as my good, healthy fatty acids. Most emu, though, is counterfeit. So you got to make sure it's lab tested. It's mostly soy and canola.
Yeah.
So it's like crazy. It's like everything's just processed and fake. So that's a good thing. But then, okay, we're doing that plus other things. And then it's different for female hormones. Female hormones is different than male hormones. Male hormones is usually a little bit easier because we don't have this cycle thing happening. And so it's going to be easier to manage.
Totally. Sure. So yeah, that's how you guys can like attack acne from a functional medicine point of view. And, there's a lot of things you can just do on your own. Like, are you getting in your B vitamins, which there's studies showing that can, like, your body...
Dose B5, for sure.
Absolutely. Your body wants certain things. Your skin is your body's largest organ. And it's really, unfortunate when I see somebody who has like just like chronic acne and just like there all the time, it's just like, I know if they just, one, if they have a horrible diet and some of these basic things, if they just clean that up, they would experience a massive benefit. But even for people that are like, hey, I've started to clean up my diet, it's like, I wish the medical system was easier where they could go get a GI map test and an OAT test all covered by insurance. But it's like, dude, like if you just get those things, you're going to be able to massively improve your skin.
Yeah.
Massively.
I remember being 12 years old, going into the dermatologist's office, and there was like a little like kind of pamphlet, like it was on like the desk, and I read it, and then it had an FAQ, and it said, does your diet impact your skin? I remember reading it, and it said, no, it does not impact your skin. I remember feeling so relieved because I could go have McDonald's and a bunch of crap afterwards, right? So I didn't know. My parents, this is like 90s. There was no internet to really get information like this. You just had what your MD said, and that was it. I remember feeling so relieved because I didn't have to make a change.
Yeah.
And so I see acne sufferers, there's so much they can do, but it's really easy to feel like I get to keep doing what I'm doing, and I feel justified for it by the medical establishment.
Yeah. Oh, they're still telling people diet has little or nothing to do with it. Yeah, it's frustrating. So acne is a big one that I wanted to hit on. The next one I wanted to hit on is IBS, Crohn's. I know these are different things, but acid reflux is a big one. I know these are um, sort of vague topics in a way, but you see a lot of people struggling with this. And I know that the conventional medicine route is almost the opposite a lot of times as to what you would do. Like with someone with acid reflux, like they just go like, okay, like kill all acid is what conventional medicine does. Like too much acid, like get on these drugs, get on these substances that just like get rid of the acid, where oftentimes you'd be like, no, 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 you're low in stomach acid, and that's why it's sort of bubbling up basically. Can you
Yeah.
elaborate on some of these?
Yeah, so let's start with the acid stuff, right? This is big, and this kind of dovetails with the H. pylori. So, do we have H. pylori going on? Because that can, one, shut down acid. It can make the gut lining thinner. So then, when we do add acid, it could feel more sensitive and raw. So that's a real thing. I tell patients, it's like, well, I need a chiropractic adjustment or a massage, but I went and got sunburn today. It doesn't mean you don't need those things. It means your body's not in a condition to receive it, right?
Totally.
So it's all about working with the physiology and making it so you can receive it better, right?
Hmm.
That's number one. If we can increase acid, we will. We will try it as long as there's no symptoms. If we have history of ulcers, then we may be careful and just use not alcohol-free bitters and ginger tea and manuka honey
Hmm.
and healing, soothing mucilaginous herbs to kind of calm it down. We're going to be using bone broth. We're going to be cooking things and no added fiber, no roughage, maybe even low fermentables, right? So it's just, that's so important because the timing of it and then where we start and being able to work up. Because if you had a patient come in and you just started on acids and then that person felt worse, you lost that patient because
Yeah.
they broke trust with you. Like they no longer believe you and then they're not going to comply. They're gone. And so
Mhm.
I always start like in the most conservative way. And I always try to predict outcomes. So if something happens, they're like, oh, Dr. J said this could happen. Here's what I'm going to do. And so they know it. That's really important. That doctor-patient relationship, being able to predict things ahead of time, that builds confidence with patients.
Sweet. Crohn's. I got a buddy at jiu-jitsu with Crohn's. I've been telling him, bro, I'll get you lab tests for free. Malik, hit me up.
Yeah,
Crohn's.
nice. So I look at all IBD, like irritable bowel diseases, like put them in like microscopic colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's. I put them all in the same kind of category, right? Crohn's, you're going to see these skip lesions throughout the small intestine and into the large intestine. You're going to see obviously bleeding and ulcerations. Where ulcerative colitis, you're going to see it more at the end of the colon, right? You may see a lot more blood in the stool on both of those. I treat them the same way, right? Conventional medicine, they're like clockwork. They're going to typically give a biologic, right? Maybe Humira, maybe Remicade. I got a patient here who I've been working with the last 6 months. He's almost off Remicade. His calprotectin, blood in the stool, everything's normal. His doctor's very reticent to pull him off.
Mhm.
And I figured out why. I asked him, I said, by the way, what do they charge your insurance a month for Remicade? And I had you, I quizzed you before. I'm like, what do you think they charge? You're like, maybe $1,000. It was $33,000
insane.
a month. 33.
Big money.
So I'm like, do you think there's a pervasive incentive to
Yeah.
keep them on?
Oh,
And
those
so-
Humira ads. I mean, they get Super Bowl ads.
Oh
dude.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this is Remicade, which is they're all going to be pretty similar, right? And so he's almost off, and all of his blood labs are have resolved, and his conventional doctor is not even curious about what's happening, which is kind of sad. I'd like to see
Yeah, I mean,
doctors
I
be
think
more
like
curious.
I think doctors like but like he can't be curious because in a way it's like, okay, so if that guy figures out like, okay, the way to sort of fix this is, okay, let me get education from the people that run the GI map, whatever company that is. They'll go educate doctors and stuff, and they do this stuff, but like he'd have to leave his whole system.
The whole system, right? And another patient, it's a little bit different, but it connects. Patient saw the podiatrist, foot doctor last week, chronic toenail fungus. I gave her a protocol to address the toenail. Here's what you got to do. We got to use an electric drill. We got to file it down smooth. We're going to use these essential oils. If we use an antifungal medication, it's going to be topical because oral can be very hard on the liver. And for toenail fungus, it takes months and months and months. So months of a drug that's hard on the liver, we want to be careful on that.
Yeah.
So she did topical stuff. She was on it 2-3 times a day, did not use any oral. Goes in, the doctor's flabbergasted. You're doing amazing. This is great. Keep up doing what you're doing. And then she forgot that she didn't take the pill. And she's like, he goes to her, please continue taking the oral pill. And she's like, well, I actually haven't been taking the oral pill at all. And so it's like that meme with the guy sweating about which button to push.
Yeah.
And so instead of saying, great job,
Yeah, they're like-
he's like, I can't believe you didn't do that. I told you to do it. And then it was like, but you just told me how great I'm doing. So
Yeah.
the cognitive dissonance really just set in. And so I like seeing medical doctors be more curious. Well, tell me more about that. That doesn't happen. I don't see that often. Tell me what you did.
Yeah.
No curiosity. And that's what is frustrating for me. I want to see people that are curious. Be curious.
100%.
Yeah.
The next
So
topic.
the gut stuff, right? Do you want to go more into that? So, so when we look at that, right, food plays a big role, but it's not just the food. Like people whose guts are ridiculously inflamed and ulcerated and very inflamed, we have to really make the food super easy to digest. And so that's where I'm a huge fan of using Instapots.
Oh yeah.
Because it just breaks everything down. I mean, you could take a nice stew and like take your fork through like some beef and just like put your fork through and it just breaks it down.
Yeah,
there's no knife, there's no chewing.
Way easier to digest.
Yeah, and also just people are shitty at chewing, dude. People do not chew their food.
Yeah, they don't masticate. That's where the whole digestion process starts.
I'm just like, I see that all the time. So I'm like, okay, you can do a steak, but like that steak is gonna feel like white rice or oatmeal in your mouth. Like it's gonna feel like cooked oatmeal.
Yeah.
It's gonna feel like that level. So I tell patients you have 32 teeth, so 32 chews, right? You don't have to really count. You can if you want, but just get that feeling of what that consistency feels like. But chewing is a big deal and overly hydrating. Water's pH 7, your stomach's a pH of 2.
Oh yeah, you see this in like Europe. Like people like traditional cultures are not chugging ice water with their meals. It's something we do in the United States, and it's like it just is not, good for digestion to be chugging water while you are eating.
No.
Just no cultures do that. Just drink your water before or after.
Yeah, before or after, the more your gut's messed up, a lot of times people have gastroparesis, that food sits in your stomach longer. So you may need to give it 2, maybe 3 hours sometimes. So hit it hard, 10 minutes, 20 minutes before. And if it's colder, give it more time. Your body has to heat it up before it lets it go down to absorb. And so if it's room temperature-ish, you can, less time. If it's ice cold water, then give it more time.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so an issue I really want to talk about is there's a lot of young kids now that, you're talking 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever, we'll call it below 22, that are hopping on testosterone. And peptides overall have become a really popular thing. Now, we both get asked the question so often, what do you think about peptides? Like, which one? Like, it's like, are you, what? Like, there's so
Like, what's
many
your goal?
different
What's your
ones.
goal?
Like, yeah, so this testosterone situation, I think, has gotten out of control. There's also HGH is being used. Now, the argument that these young people are giving is that, hey, you basically want to take advantage of puberty. And if you want to grow tall, if you want to have good jaw development, if you want to be like an alpha Giga Chad male, you need to do testosterone because it's the easiest thing to do. As a functional medicine practitioner, you see thousands of patients. You're experienced with hormones, now they work. What do you think about this overall?
Okay, so first things first, I think everyone should have endocrinology like 101 down. Like understand how your hormones work from a bird's eye view, right? You have your hypothalamus, produces gonadotropic releasing hormone, right? That thing goes to the pituitary, and the pituitary then makes things like LH, luteinizing hormone. That goes to your testes to make testosterone. And then your pituitary also makes FSH, and that goes to your gonads as well. It stimulates the Sertoli cells, which make sperm. Right.
Okay.
So that's the general feedback loop. You have some potentiation from growth hormone, which then goes to the liver and gets activated to IGF-1. And that makes testosterone like more active too. And then there's also things like insulin resistance that can also shut down growth hormone. Part of how they'll test for like growth hormone, like tumors and stuff, is they'll actually give this glucose solution and they'll see if your growth hormone drops. So it's like, wait a minute. So you're saying sugar lowers growth hormone, but we're going to just shove sugar down everyone's throats. So growth hormone does make testosterone more active too. And then also liver function, because your liver makes this binding globulin called SHGB, which can bind it up and can lower your free. Okay. So now that you know that, right? Talked about GnRH, hypothalamus, LH, FSH to your gonads. Now, if we start to add in more estrogens, what does that do? It starts to decrease the LH and FSH from the brain to the testicle. So the first thing is stop adding in freaking estrogens.
And what are
That's
common,
the first.
What are common sources? To that?
So we're going to be looking at your plastics, drinking glass, right? Glass, much better. Organic foods, right? Most organic foods, eat organic foods. Most conventional foods are going to have pesticides that have an estrogen backbone to it, right? Or different organochlorines, glyphosate as well. Also look at mold. Mold has estrogenic nature to it, right? They'll put like zearalenone in cow's ears to make them grow fatter, right? So mold has estrogenic to it. CBD has some estrogen to it. And also it tends to give you the munchies, and then you start eating more foods that give you what? More insulin. Now
the weed, man. Yeah, people need to get off the weed.
Yeah. And again, you don't see it with CBD. It's more on the THC side of it. Okay. So then you have the major thing is high levels of insulin. Insulin upregulates an enzyme called aromatase. And that aromatase takes T and goes to E. And so the more processed and inflammatory and high glycemic, more sugar, the faster sugar goes into your blood, and the more processed it is, the more that upregulates aromatase. And then so we got our plastics, we got cooking our food in plastics, microwaving in plastics. We have our pesticides, we have our glyphosate, we have mold. And so those would be the big ones. Like
a lot of these kids, they go like, that sounds difficult.
Soy, Impossible Burger, phytoestrogen, stay away. You know, I put that in the same camp as like
being
the THC.
pushed on people.
Dude,
so, but a lot of these teens go like, that's difficult. I want to be able to eat my Jack in the Box and do whatever, and I can just inject myself with testosterone.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the underlying root cause. So the first thing is that does not negate the side effects that you're going to have from that. Okay. And number two is how testosterone is used is going to cause more aromatase. And so you're going to have more side effects of that. And then also, do you want to have kids someday? Because the more you jack up.
Okay, what if they go, I'm just going to take an aromatase inhibitor?
Okay, you can do that. It's still messing with physiology. Anytime you go outside of physiological ranges, you're going to have side effects. You know why? This is my theory, and it's supported by the literature. Do you know why most bodybuilders die or get heart attacks from steroid use? You know why?
No.
Okay, it's because they're on arimidex and estrogen blockers, and estrogen is actually very important for healing the vascular tissue. And so when you get estrogen too low, you don't heal the vascular tissue as well. So estrogen is very important. And we're talking about not like DIM blocking. We're talking about arimidex enzymatically blocking. That's going to impact the healing of that vascular tissue.
For sure.
So there's a price to pay on that stuff if you do that. And you'll see bodybuilders understand that, and they'll do medication, they'll do meds like, you know, testosterone like Deca that won't convert. Like they can go super high and it won't go downstream. But then there's side effects of that and platelets and increasing the blood thickness. It's a pathway you really don't want to go down. So I always say, well, what's the better option, right? That's the better way. And also, we could talk about, okay, if you're going to do testosterone, what's the best way to do it? But when you're young, you don't need to do that. There's so many other root cause modalities that you can do that work better.
For sure.
Yep.
And then with the human growth hormone side of things, so some, you know, young people are doing this to try to like get to their tallest. And I know there's actually been PubMed studies of people who have like, you know, growth issues and stuff and HGH being used. But we were talking earlier about how growth hormone can also basically feed some tumors and cancer. So there could be a risk with some of these things if you have, you know, an underlying, you know, tumor that you don't know about because your medical checkups just aren't that in depth, which is just the case for many people. You could potentially be feeding cancer, to summarize it.
Yes. And again, it's a different situation if you're younger and your growth plates are going to close soon and you're at a below average height. That's a different thing. But then why is that? Because your bones are half protein. Are you eating enough protein? Are you digesting enough protein? Are you swimming in estrogen? So it begs a bunch of other questions. So that may be a option on your checklist, but maybe other things that have to be done beforehand from a functional medicine standpoint.
Totally.
I wouldn't take it off the table. I would just say, look at other things first, and maybe you do that in conjunction of that. And these are rare situations. I would look at the reason why those things are being impeded first.
Totally. Yeah. 100%. And yeah, I mean, when you go the way that we're discussing now and optimizing your supplements, optimizing your food, optimizing your sleep, you get other cascades of good health. And then you also get the longevity aspect of you can be healthy into your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. When we look at some of these studies on bodybuilders that use a lot of this gear, they do not live long. And the deaths are brutal, guys. Like you guys just don't hear. I mean, you hear about some of these famous bodybuilders dying or young fitness influencers dying. Getting a massive heart attack at age 40 or a blood clot or something, it's a dark situation.
Yeah. And I go to patients, I say, well, you know, my young 18-year-old guy, it's like, well, why do you want higher testosterone? Let's go see where you're at first. Let's go look at free and total testosterone. But what's your goal? And usually it's like, I want more muscle. I want better mood, better energy. Usually there's some other symptom that's not quite right. And they're just linking it all to testosterone as being the solution.
It does get,
and it may not be
pinned as like this cure-all, testosterone cure-all. And so like, what could you see in the endocrine system or in the gut or in like the organic acids test if somebody's like, I just don't feel like good, maybe their libido's down or they want to be just like putting on more muscle? Like, what are some things that you could see there that aren't testosterone?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is, it's like, okay, you got two kinds of major hormones, right? You have peptide-based hormones, that's insulin, that's growth hormone, and you have steroid or cholesterol-based hormones. So pretty much everything from like the thyroid down to be more cholesterol-based. think of testosterone, think of estrogen, progesterone. It's more cholesterol, steroid-based backbone, and insulin and growth hormone are more peptide-based. That means protein. So I want to make sure we're digesting protein. We're eating enough protein. Our diet's like tight. Our macros are tight. We're eating enough, right?
There was just a study released today. I screenshot it because I got to talk about it, but it was a 3 or more meals, like protein-rich meals, led to more muscle growth.
Yep.
Than less, basically. And so a lot of people do these like fasting protocols and stuff, and they're like, I'm going to boost my natural human growth hormone by fasting. And it's like, you're not winning the game there. You just want to be ingesting meals, hit your 3-4 meals a day with protein.
Yeah. And then are we absorbing it? I had a patient do the whole growth hormone thing when he was younger, and he had IBD and it wasn't being managed well. And so there's a malabsorption of those same building blocks. So let's look at that too, right? So we got to look at the IBD. We got to look at malabsorption and digestion, sleep. We look at that first, right?
Totally.
And then, we can use supplements and nutrients, or maybe even a medication if we're in a dire straits. But yeah, that's a good starting point overall there.
For sure. And then, so the other thing that's become really popular, some young people especially are looking towards GLP-1s and peptides that act on those, that transport chain, like retatrutide, various GLP-1s, and they're kind of looking at them as like, okay, like I'm just going to take this preventatively because, it'll help my lipid profile. It'll help me lose weight, basically, if they're slightly overweight or lean out. And while I think we would both agree that GLP-1s can have their use, I'm sure if a patient comes to you 600 pounds, you're like, hey, man, like this is going to be a life-saving thing. What do you think about that process overall?
It's a great question. So when you look at GLP-1s, right, I forget the actual regular dose, but I typically, if I recommend it, we'll do like an 1/8 to a 16th of the full dose and taper up, because the biggest symptoms I see is nausea and gastroparesis and really slow digestion. And so part of my theory is you're just making the digestive tract make food so uncomfortable that you just start to eat less, because the food just feels like crap inside of you. So it's the equivalent of always overeating on Thanksgiving Day meal, that feeling you have, but that's what you have all the time. And so it's really good for people that have broken their leptin feedback loop of feeling satiated.
Totally.
Like literally they cannot feel full. Those are people it can be a reasonable good thing for.
Yeah.
But outside of that, it's not a get out of jail card. You still need to eat your body weight in grams of protein, or at least your lean body weight in grams of protein per day, because now you're prone for osteoporosis and being sarcopenic. So there's no get out of jail there. You still need nutrient density. You're going to have willpower to eat like it's Thanksgiving Day meal and you just ate. That's how it's going to feel a lot of times. And so you have to push through that. And so it's still not a get out of jail pass, but it's for a very small percent. And if you do it, you go very low dose and you work your way up. And you don't go up if you have a side effect. You work through that before you hit it. Now, that being said, that's a very sub 1% of the population that I think could benefit. There's too many other things naturally that we can do instead.
Totally. Okay, another topic we're going to hit on. We'll hit on a few more. Someone goes to their doctor and they've been living really healthy, they've been eating good nutrient-dense food, and the conventional doctor will see LDL a little high. And the doctor will say, hey, what are you eating? And they go, I eat eggs, I eat some, chicken, beef, whatever it is. And they go, hey, you need to get your LDL basically as low as possible. Maybe if they're a bit older, they'll recommend a statin. And while you aren't somebody that's like, get your LDL high, you're not like, chewing sticks of butter, and stuff like that. But like, why is it more complex than that, in your opinion?
It's a great question. So first off, when you look at how statins were approved 10, 20 years ago, they were typically approved off of like total cholesterol LDL studies. They didn't have the ability to fractionate the cholesterols. And once you were able to fractionate and look at small dense and look at oxidized cholesterol, the correlation for heart issues based off of oxidized and small dense was like 6 to 8 times more than just cholesterol by itself.
So to summarize there, the statins were approved and really looked into before we had access to more data. Now we can get a little bit more granular with looking at your LDL and different forms of it and stuff. And now, we have more data. Yeah,
and there are more natural guys that have kind of like come out as like statins are good and all this, but then my friend Dr. Jack Wolfson, paleocardiologist, thinks totally different. He's been in the cardiology field for 30 years. So if you look at it, right? So cardiovascular health, what's your greatest chance of having a cardiovascular event? Is it from cholesterol or is it from a clot?
Clot,
60%.
Wow.
Okay, so then what are the risk factors for clots? Okay, so foam cells, right? Foam cells can throw off clots, and then coagulation factors. So I'm going to look at things like inflammation in the blood. The more inflammation in the blood, the more cells can agglutinate and stick together, right? So I'm looking at HSCRP. I'm looking at D-dimer, right? That's your clotting factor. They'll use that and measure it when you're on Coumadin. I'm going to look at fibrinogen. I'm also going to look at LPPLA2, lipoprotein, plasminogen. It's basically HSCRP for the blood vessels of the heart, right? I'm going to look at homocysteine. So I'm going to look at all the inflammatory things that can cause cells to get sticky. And I'm going to see how sticky, fasting insulin as well, because insulin makes cells agglutinate and stick. So, and they kind of cross-link proteins as well with high insulin. And so I'm going to look at those factors. If those are great, I feel really good if cholesterol is higher. Now, I want to make sure with small dense and oxidized cholesterol is low. That's a good sign, right? The less likely they are to oxidize, the less chance of a foam cell occurring, right? These are the cells that kind of block the vasculature. And then if we're going to look at our lipids, most important marker, that'll give me a window into what your particle size is what's your triglyceride to HDL ratio. I want under 2, 1 to 1's ideal.
Gotcha.
If those are good, I feel really good. Now, that being said, Framingham Heart Study starts to show an increased risk of total cholesterol and heart attacks once you go 320 and up. And so if I do see mid 300s, I'm looking at all the other markers, and they better be really good for me to feel comfortable staying there. If not, we can always do things like berberine. We can look at thyroid hormone. If it's lower, I don't give it just as, like they used to give thyroid hormone in the 80s to actually lower cholesterol. You can lower cholesterol 10, 20, 30% with thyroid hormone. And if someone needs it, they're like in the bottom, 10%, 20% of the range. Maybe that makes sense. But we can use berberine. We can use, B vitamins and nicotinic acid. We can use things like that can give it it's not a statin. It'll modulate it downward.
Yeah. And so guys, right there, like if you're just going to your doctor, they're running an extremely basic cholesterol panel on you. And they're like, LDL's high, stop eating those eggs, stop including the butter in your diet. That's not an in-depth conversation. And if they don't know about some of the stuff that he just mentioned there, then you might want to sort of look for maybe a different cardiologist or go the functional medicine route, because it's just been very simplified. It's been oversimplified. Saturated fat leads to higher LDL. High LDL is correlated with heart disease. Do not eat, saturated fat. Saturated fat equals bad.
But saturated fat also increases HDL. So it tends to also improve the trig to HDL ratio.
Totally.
And then part of the reason it's okay. Now, how did conventional medicine even get the idea that saturated fat was bad? So we keep on going back to the root, right? Crummy science. So when they looked at saturated fat, it was combined with trans fats.
Interesting.
Right. So the studies originally had trans fats mixed with the saturated fat. So they're like, oh, it's so bad. Okay, then we realized that. And then now we start to do saturated fats by themselves. And we're like, well, we don't see that problem.
Yeah.
Right.
And to be clear, none of us are like, just like have a ton of saturated fat. Like we both promote like a very balanced diet. It's not like, but we're also not people that are like, oh, cook your eggs in soybean oil because that'll be a better option than grass-fed butter. So it's like this idea of just, I don't know, like I just incorporate saturated fat in like a normal way. Like I'm not going to not eat my beef because there's some saturated fat in there. Because this is the point that a lot of people have gotten to when they go down this conventional medicine rabbit hole of saturated fat equals heart disease. 90 to
95% of all fat is made by the body. Okay. It's very small impact on food. Like my fatty acid profile, my last total cholesterol was 190. My triglycerides were at 60. My HDL was at like 65, 70. Like pretty low. But I see people who do eat like me that are also higher too. I have so many data points, so I'm kind of, agnostic about it. And so when it gets really high, I'm more worried about the clotting and I'm more worried about the oxidized and this, making sure there's lower small dense and making sure the inflammation in the blood vessels are good. So that becomes more important to me. And there's a small percent of the population, 1%, that are hypercholesterolemic. And maybe it makes sense to be on a PKS9, I think that's what it's called, PKS9, or maybe a lower dose like red yeast rice statin. Maybe, right?
Totally.
Again, those are the minority. I don't like making rules for the majority for the minority, right? So people are listening. Odds are that's not you, but if you're in the mid to, low to mid 300s and up, maybe.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's hit on a few quick topics. The first one I wanted to hit on is creatine. So we're both big fans of creatine. And we see luckily, we see kind of everybody coming around on creatine. The most Western medicine doctors, everybody's kind of coming together and being like, yeah, you should probably take creatine. When do you like using creatine? What do you think about creatine?
So I came onto creatine, it was 2000, because I was a Patriots fan growing up, right? I'm a Chiefs fan now. And it was like 2003, okay? And I was watching a video where they were interviewing Tom Brady at his like locker room, like
Yeah.
right at his like whatever, at his like bench they had. And I remember seeing in the top right hand corner there was creatine.
Yeah.
A big buck. I'm like, oh damn, like what's this?
Yeah.
So this is like '03. I'm like in high school, and I'm like, oh damn, high school, college. I'm like, what's this creatine thing? So that's when I first kind of got onto
Yeah.
creatine, right? And so you got creatine monohydrate, and you got like buffered creatine, like crealkaline or a buffered creatine, right? So we could talk about the two differences there. And so I always like creatine because you can't get enough in food, right? To get like a therapeutic level of 5 to 10 grams a day, that's like 7 to 8 pounds of meat, right? Unless you're like the mountain from like Game of Thrones, like the Icelandic strongman, like most people don't get that much, right?
Yeah.
They need supplement form. And so that's where it's nice because you can actually get that pretty effortlessly and it's not too expensive.
Oh yeah, it's affordable now. And so like, what does creatine do in the body when you ingest it?
Yeah, so your body has these phosphate groups called phosphocreatine, and it stores it in the muscles, and it's going to be used in the first 10 seconds of explosive movement. And so it's really good anytime. I do a lot of pickleball now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, running and sprinting to the pickle line, to the kitchen line. And I like it for just like my recovery and to be able to do fast explosive movements.
Totally.
Plyometric stuff, great. Like jujitsu, it's going to be excellent for that. And so I'm going to do 10 grams before a workout. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get all these extra phosphate groups. These phosphate groups are going to be raw material to bind to ADP in the body. That's adenosine diphosphate, DI, right, for 2. And that can be the raw material to make adenosine triphosphate, right? And so that's ATP. And then our body uses an enzyme called ATPase, and it can break it down and generate energy, right? So that'll generate ATP. That'll fuel the Krebs cycle. That'll fuel the electron transport chain for more energy. It can also cross the blood-brain barrier, and those phosphates can go in the brain to make more ATP in the brain.
Yeah, I know that you've seen these studies for Alzheimer's, for
Yes.
dementia. It's like, I think everybody should be taking creatine at this point. The next thing I want to hit on with you,
As adults age, though, they become more sarcopenic. There's all kinds of studies with creatine decreasing muscle wasting in people that are older. There's studies on it helping with hydration in the muscle because it'll pull more water into the muscle.
Yeah, that's what people say. They go, oh, but like I'm gonna like it's like pulling water into my muscles. Like, yeah, that's a good thing. That's like that's what's happening anyway when you work out.
Yeah, and if you're like, I get a lot of females like, I just don't want the blow. I'm like, let's use a buffer creatine. Let's do a crealkaline creatine. You'll have less water retention, but maybe a little less benefit from that. But hey, it's better than nothing. It also can buffer some of the lactic acid ions afterwards, so you're a little less sore. So I've been doing it before, about an hour before my workout, 30 minutes to an hour, empty stomach. It goes pretty fast. And I'll even do 5 grams afterwards just for recovery. If I'm doing like
that's
a
what
2
I've been
hour,
doing. Like, I do the same thing. Like I do it with my electrolytes. So then like when I'm making my protein shake later, like I'll do another scoop to hit like 10 grams per day. I like to do.
that's great.
So yeah, creatine, absolutely amazing. The next thing I want to hit on is cold and flu season. You have so many natural remedies for cold and flu season that anyone can go buy at a Whole Foods or just on Amazon, whatever. Let's hit some of your favorite things for cold and flu season. So someone out there, they start to feel that tickle in their throat. You have some really good protocols to like hit it. And hey, it's gonna happen sometimes, guys. We get sick. If you never get sick, that's actually a concern. Like if you never ever you want an immune reaction, you want it to be quick, you want to hit it. What do you do for cold and flu season?
So first thing I start with like easy low hanging fruit is most colds actually get stuck here. Like you get a virus, you're breathing, it's here first. It's in your sinus cavity, right? And so the more you can hit it there first, it's less likelihood it travels up or down into the lungs, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a bigger fan of Xlear Rescue.
Yes.
Right? Which is a xylitol with essential oils in it.
Evan put me onto that a while ago.
Yep.
And guys, this is a spray you can get. It's the Xlear Rescue. And this is the one with some Podiarco.
It's got some
oregano,
oregano, parsley, tea tree. So it's got a lot of those things.
So I have this in my backpack when I travel all the time. Because before I get on the plane, and then while I'm on the plane, when I'm off the plane, it's amazing. And because these viruses can enter into your sinus cavity, and then from there, that's where they basically start to marinate and do their thing. They replicate.
Yep.
So that's a really good preventative right there.
100%.
You're gonna get on a plane during Thanksgiving or during Christmas. Get this stuff. It's so affordable. It's like a few bucks. Blast yourself with it.
And that's great. Like for acute stuff, it's great. Even if you get sick, like a week, maybe a little bit longer, it's fine to use. If you're using it more frequently just because of allergens or junk in the environment, the regular Xlear is great.
Yeah. You don't want to, the Podiarco and the other stuff is like,
it can be a little strong on the mucous membranes. The way to go around it is big fan of spraying it first, especially if you get sick. It breaks up the mucus adhesions on the nose. And then I use a saline flush. So we're going to use RO or really good distilled water, or just even a really good filtered water. Like if I have like an Evian here, I'm going to use that. I feel comfortable with that. I'll fill it up. I'll add my NeoMed saline packet, or I'll even do a xylitol X-Clear packet with same thing, but it'll have a little bit more xylitol in it. If I'm doing the spray, I typically stay away from it because it's just too much. And then I'll add a couple drops of either iodine or food grade hydrogen peroxide or silver. I'll rotate. I'll usually pick one day. I'll just change it every day.
Yeah.
And so I'll do.
And you do that with like a neti pot, or what do you do?
No, so I do a saline flush bottle. It's like this: go clean your driveway with a garden hose, and then go use a pressure washer. Pressure washer gets a lot more accomplished, right? And when you're like doing the neti pot, you're sideways, so only like the very bottom part of your sinus cavity gets hit because it's gravity based. So when I'm going to pressurize it. I'm going to use one of the bottles or a nasaline pump and force it up there. And I did the math. Like if I do the X-Clear first, I get so much more crap out of my nose. So it's like X-Clear, spray, two sprays, let the nose start to run. Starts to run. That means things are loosening up, and then I flush. Totally. And then I'll do one spray after that just to kind of coat it. If you're sensitive, then you're done, right? That's it. But I will do that. And then during treatment, I'll do that 5 times a day, 6 times, every hour. My X-Clear's on my desk, and I'll hit it every hour if I need. Especially if you're seeing any yellow or green, that's just me. That's dead white blood cells, right? The greener it gets, the more white blood cells that are dead are in there.
Interesting. Okay, so you've started to feel yourself getting sick. You're blasting it with those things. What else? I'm
going to take that same saline afterwards. Okay, I hit it all. So spray, flush. By the way, my protocol, justinhealth.com/sinus-flush.
Yeah, it's all free.
Full video, all there. It's like literally me doing the whole thing. I do the whole thing. It's like me there. Yeah, so you'll see it. I'll take the same saline and I'll just do like I squirt my mouth and I'll gargle 15 seconds.
Yep.
Right, get everything kind of loose, spit it out. That's great. Next, I will do Echinacea Golden Seal in a tincture form. Why? I want to put it in some salt water. I'm going to gargle that thing for 30 seconds. Okay. Why? Because I want it to hit the back of my throat. I want it to bathe my throat.
Literally like where you're feeling that.
Where I'm feeling it. I want to bathe it. I want to hit it. Golden Seal is your nature's antibiotic. The major reason how it works, it's antibacterial and mildly antiviral too. And so and then also the saline by itself is antibacterial, antiviral. Totally. So we're going to hit it all. So I'm going to put about your Redmond's real salt. I'm going to add my Echinacea Golden Seal. I'm going to use my little blender. I'm going to put it in 30 seconds. I'm gargling. Okay. And then afterwards I swallow it too. Yeah. And so I like that. I also have some Echinacea Golden Seal in a gel cap form. I like that. And I'll still do that, but it's not going to topically hit. The more I can hit it directly, the better.
You're getting a tincture.
I'm getting it right there.
Herbs, boom. You're putting it in that water. Good amount of Redmond salt in there.
Yes.
Boom. And then it's gargling and then swallowing that Echinacea Golden Seal.
100%
mixture. Yeah.
That's the easiest thing out of the gate to clean things up. And so I can go deeper. So that's like my first line strategy because it starts there and viral load and symptoms kind of go hand in hand. The more the viral load goes up, right, the more the symptoms go up.
Totally.
I remember during COVID time, right, there was a time I had COVID, right? And I'm like doing the PCR swab and I'm like, okay, it's positive. I'm like, watch this. So my wife come over here and I do my saline with the iodine, flush, let it dry out. Come back with the PCR, test, negative. The viral load was just like done. It was like, it knocked it down. And so if you just keep on doing that, you keep the viral load down. That's key.
For sure.
Right? So really helpful. Now I can go deeper. So one of the easiest things, right? Glucose. Glucose suppresses your phagocyte index. That's basically you have these cells that are phagocytes, which is like Latin. It just means to eat. They're eater cells, right? These are going to be your macrophages. These are going to be your dendritic cells. These are going to be your monocytes. They go to eat and gobble up bacteria. They gobble up junk, right? And so what happens is they gobble up stuff, right? They are also what are called antigen presenting cells. As they take in that virus or bacteria, they eat it and they take a piece of it as a badge and they put it on them. They're like, look, this is what I'm eating right now. It's like, I just ate steak. Here's my steak badge. Then these immune cells, right? These toll-like receptor sites are like, oh, damn, like this is this virus, this flu virus. It goes and tells the CD4 and CD8 T cells, come on and bring your B cells too. And so it starts the whole process. Does that make sense? And so the molecule glucose, right? It's a C6H12O6 molecule, right? And if you go look at vitamin C, it's C6H8O6. It's very similar. So when you're taking in too much sugar and glucose, it binds to where that vitamin C receptor would go on the macrophage to help with this gobbling up process. And it decreases the ability to gobble up junk. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's part of this whole immune response. And so the more you can keep glucose down, and then I do what's called a vitamin C calibration. I'm going to load up on vitamin C till my stools get loose. I'm going to pull back 1 gram.
That's a big thing. A lot of people don't realize how much of certain supplements, you got to be
Mhm,
careful which
mhm.
ones, but like the dosage that so many people take, and this is something I've learned from you, is so low
Yep,
sometimes. It's like
can
when
be.
I'm sick, it's like I'm taking grams and grams and grams and grams of
Yep.
vitamin C. I mean, there's studies where they give people, I mean, I don't know, like immense amounts of vitamin C, and you're totally fine. Now, this isn't the case with every supplement, guys. Some things you could, take too much of. Vitamin A, for example, you could take too much of that. It's gonna be a problem.
Yes,
But
fat
stuff like
soluble.
vitamin C and even vitamin D, you can mega dose this
Mhm.
stuff. And it's not like
Acutely
something,
on
oh,
D,
you
yep.
need a mega dose every single day, but especially when you're sick. How much vitamin C do you like to take personally?
I will calibrate it. I take usually a couple grams a day in my electrolyte powder, but I will calibrate it up. I'll do typically an L-ascorbate in a powder form, and I'll just go up till my stools get loose and then go down. But it's usually somewhere between 4 to 8 grams.
Yeah.
It's going to be right around that area. So we're going to maximize vitamin C. Well, we can do vitamin D acutely, high dose, 100,000 IUs for 3 days.
Yeah.
The
And
benefit of
that's
vitamin,
been, you've
yep.
told me that. And like, it's not even something like I like talk about too much. I mean, we
Mhm.
sell vitamin D, and like I'll be like, hey, like for a lot of people, if you're not getting sun, like you can take, it's gonna depend. You want to take, your 5,000 IUs, or it might be less for some people, might be more. But it's like, yeah, like when I'm getting sick, like I'm taking a handful of our
Yeah.
vitamin D, and
Yeah. So it's going to help produce an antimicrobial peptide called cathelicidin. And so that's antimicrobial. So it can help with the microbial load, which is great. It's going to modulate your T regulatory cells. So it'll kind of modulate your immune response, which is
Mhm.
really helpful. And when you look at the big mechanism on most of these herbals work, we can go through more, right? Is typically it's going to upregulate the immune system. Either it's going to upregulate your natural killer cells, right? You have your natural killer, which is the TH, which is the 8, the natural killer 8, or the CD4, right? Helper cells are CD4, and then the TH81s are going to be the natural killer cells. So there was like a medication that was used by like most of the world like 5 years ago, right? And the issue with that medication is it actually shut down a lot of people's natural killer cells.
Mm,
And so one of the best herbs you can do to actually bump that up is reishi mushroom,
mm,
or the herb is or the actual name is Ganoderma lucidum.
mhm.
So we want to do it in a hot water or extract or alcohol extract, so it's very potent. That can really bump up your TH, your T cells, especially the CD8 and CD4. CD8 natural killer, CD4 are the helper. Okay,
Mhm.
so those are really important. Those also then go back and cause more B cells to be made. So
Mhm.
that's like the TH, the natural 8 CD8 ones. Those are like the Delta Force. They're like the Navy SEALs. And the CD4 are like the intel guys. They're like looking the intel, like looking on their binoculars, and they're like going back and like telling the TH2, TH8 stuff and the B cells what to come, right?
Yeah.
So very helpful. So I like reishi mushroom at that level. That's really good. We're going to be doing higher dose vitamin C, and then also make those diet changes, right?
Mhm.
Also, digestion usually goes to heck when you get sick because of your immune system's fighting stuff. And so the
Yeah.
energy's elsewhere. That's why like chicken soup has always been that old adage.
Yeah.
So like people's grandmothers are totally right on things. They might not understand why, but they know it works.
Mhm.
So like chicken soup, wonderful. Just pull out the
Yeah,
noodles.
there's a lot of like basic stuff, guys, that like it works so well.
Yeah.
Chicken soup,
Yeah.
ginger tea,
Yeah.
these things.
Yes.
Ginger's amazing.
So
Yeah.
let's keep on going into the mechanism. So we have like the immune bumping aspect. We have things like silver, which block the virus's ability to bind to receptor sites.
Yeah, people got really scared about silver because there was that dude who was drinking like so much of it and he turned blue. Guys, you're talking one, I don't know, 1/10,000th of that. I don't even know if it's probably even more, but like I have the silver, and like I took it actually after I had my food poisoning in Italy, and it was like little sips, throughout the day, and it's like you're not going to turn blue.
So there's a Lancet article from 10 years ago, all right? And it talked about Algeria. Okay. And I read the case study. It literally said this person drank 3 liters every day for 7 years.
That's so much.
That's
That's
crazy.
yeah, that's insane.
Like we're talking like
Yeah.
a teaspoon to maybe a tablespoon,
Mhm.
like 2 to 3 times a day acutely.
And you like that because it's antimicrobial, antibacterial.
But it also prevents the virus from being able to bind. The virus has to dock on to the mucosa to
Mhm.
start replicating and doing its thing, right? So it prevents binding. Now, here's the deal. I don't ever just use one thing. So first thing is like sinus flush stuff, diet. Second thing is we're going to be doing vitamin C calibration. Next, jack up vitamin D. Third, we can do zinc lozenges, right? Suck
Yeah.
on some zinc lozenges. Or Xlear has some great lozenges with the xylitol. I love xylitol because it breaks the mucus up too.
Yeah,
I love that.
xylitol's great.
Yeah.
Don't let your dog get near any xylitol.
Yes, stay away from
It'll
that.
kill a dog.
Dude, exactly. Like
But,
my
yeah.
kids are like notorious for leaving crap out.
my
So
God,
I'm
don't
like,
leave those out.
no, nothing gets left out.
Yeah, when I do the nasal spray, like I do not let Chudo even lick my face.
Yeah.
Like, like I keep him away. But yeah, you got to be careful with that.
Exactly, 100% on that. Okay, so then if you look at the other mechanisms, right? So we have anti-inflammatory mechanisms. So part of like when this whole virus replication thing happens, right? And you have these toll-like receptor sites start modulating the immune system, part of what's happening is it's increasing interleukins and cytokines,
Mhm.
right? And it's doing that as a way of supporting the immune response. A side effect of those interleukins and cytokines is a fever. So the worst thing you can do is shut down a fever.
For sure.
The worst thing.
Oh, I've heard. I mean, I've heard about that so much. Like with this sickness I got in Italy, like I had a little bit of a fever, and it was like, oh, like you put into traditional Chat GPT, there's gonna pull like from Western medicine, unless you get a little more detailed with them on what you're looking for, and they're like, yeah, just pop a bunch of Tylenol, and that'll like reduce your fever, and you're like, the fever is a something my body is doing to get rid of this virus or whatever's going on in me. So like, yeah, fevers can be beneficial.
They can,
And
right?
obviously, guys, if your fever gets too high for too long, go to the doctor. Of course, no one's saying that. But if you have a basic fever, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and also there are other herbs you can do that will modulate those interleukins, the cytokines, so they don't go too high. Now, the data on that is some people will say if it's under 105, you're fine, right? Usually, you have to be wary of fevers when there's head trauma, because head trauma can basically modulate the pituitary and hypothalamus, so it's not sensing temperature. And you can always do like a sponge bath or a mildly cold water. You don't want to shock your system and jump in super cold, so you can do a mildly cold shower. And a couple things, right? A couple of herbs I'm going to talk about here that can help that. So I made the sheet. I can share it with you afterwards, and you can share it with your crew here.
Yeah, I'll put it in the notes.
All right. So a couple of things here that I wanted to highlight. So here we go. Black seed oil, right? Modulates interleukins. Okay. Very good there. Next one that's very helpful is our andrographis as well. That boosts the macrophage and it modulates that nuclear factor kappa beta, right? Astragalus, really good as well. Modulates the T cells, natural killer cells. But the big mechanisms, right? We're going to stimulate the macrophage, so you gobble up more, okay? Cytokine modulation, right? That's some of the herbs I mentioned, right? Ginger's also great at that. Next, direct antimicrobial, antiviral. This is your golden seal.
When do you like to hit something like oregano oil or olive leaf? Because I know those are going to be pretty powerful.
Those are going to be there. So that's going to be your antimicrobial. That's going to inhibit viral attachment. Some silver.
That's one of the basic things. Like I had a buddy text me earlier, like getting sick. Like, what do you recommend? I'm like, it's a lot of these echinacea golden seal, up your vitamin C, like up your vitamin D. These are things people usually have in their home. Like start hitting ginger tea. The saline is like right there in your house. Like even if you are ordering this X-Clear stuff, while you're watching this, like put some salt and some water and, gargle that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's just like oregano oil is something you can get at almost any Whole Foods, Sprouts.
Yep.
Echinacea is the same thing. Astragalus, like you're saying, these things are everywhere.
100%. And so that's going to inhibit the attachment. It's going to help with the bacterial overgrowth. So we're talking golden seal. We're talking astragalus. We're talking andrographis. We're talking oil of oregano, right? Echinacea augustifolia and purpurea. We want both. I want the whole herb in there. Okay, next, mucosal barrier support. This is where we're going to do ginger tea, manuka honey. This is where we're going to do NAC. It's an anti-mucolytic, right?
Oh my God. If your nose gets stuffed up, I don't know why people like haven't heard of NAC. Luckily, Huberman had a clip that went viral where he's like, when I get stuffed up, I take like 2 grams NAC. Luckily, that went viral to get more info out about NAC because it's an extremely affordable supplement. It also benefits your testosterone levels, detoxing estrogens. There's brain health benefits. There's lung health benefits. There's liver benefits. I wish more people knew about it. I'm doing my part by selling an N-acetylcysteine with alpha-lipoic acid. It's like, yeah, and also, guys, NAC, it scares some people, and alpha-lipoic acid, they have like a little sulfur smell. That's good. That's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. And also, phase 3 government clinical trials comparing NAC to minoxidil for hair growth, it did better.
Wow.
So, I mean, you can't beat it.
Yeah.
So, and then also Mucinex. Now we can do a natural form. The active herb is guanefacin. It comes from guaiac bark, and so we can get the actual guaiac bark by itself. It helps thin out the mucus, right? So thinning it out, because mucus is basically going to be all the dead debris from the immune cells. Now it's like if it sits there, it can be fodder and fuel for more bacteria. So we want to get it the hell out of there, right?
Sure.
So when it's moist and dark, we want to get it out of there. So that's super helpful as well. And that's where the sinus flush comes in. Then we want to also push it out too, right? Very good. And then we want the antioxidants, right? We want to stabilize cortisol because we can have cortisol stress. That's where things like ginseng or rhodiola or ashwagandha can still be very helpful for immune. If you look at Stephen Buhner always loved ashwagandha long-term because of its immune benefits. So I like that as well. Immune stress. This is where I'm going to like echinacea, right? Wonderful for that. Andrographis, astragalus, really good. My top list here was andrographis, astragalus, echinacea, purpurea, and augustifolia. African geranium was interesting as well because it helps with the macrophage, the gobbling up. Licorice, very good for the throat, for the mucus, right? Good tea called throat coat tea by Traditional Medicinals.
Oh yeah, I love that stuff.
Great. Ginger, I love to juice it. The juicing it, there's a lot more potent compounds in it. And then you can dilute it with a little bit of lemon, or the citric acid cuts the mucus too. So you do the lemon or lime and with the manuka. Then you got your black seed, very good for modulating the cytokines. Your reishi, one of my favorite. Again, you got triterpenes in there, and you got beta-1,3-glucan. These are all antimicrobial, antiviral as well. Love it. Turkey tails, also great too. And then golden seal is my Mother Nature's natural antibiotic. I go to golden seal first, try to topically hit it. Everyone kind of has their way that they tend to like get sick first. For me, it's that tickle in my throat.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the sinus flush. I'm gargling with golden seal echinacea. I'm hitting that stuff hard. And then here's the thing. When you get sick and you're like, oh, I overcame it, go for 1 to 2 days longer.
Okay, nice.
People pull up. They're like, I'm good. And then it's like, boom, it comes back.
Yeah, I've used some of these protocols, guys. And it's like, look, like, you know, we travel a lot. Like we're around a lot of people. Like sometimes I'll do these meetups where I, you know, meet like 800 people. And it's like, yeah, you can get sick. You know, you have kids. So like your kids bring stuff in the house. And it's like, the goal isn't to never get sick. It's to rebound really fast, support what your body wants to do. And you can do that with a lot of those protocols that you talked about. So yeah, that's absolutely amazing. I think that's pretty much most of the stuff I wanted to hit on. I mean, we could have an 8-hour podcast.
Any live questions coming in? Do we need?
Yeah, feedback? I can see some questions for sure.
I would love it. Just let's keep on rolling. But with the herbals,
Nick, you might need to edit out some space here as I pull some of these up.
As I roll though, I love olive leaf too. Like I have a product called Immuno Supreme, and so we have olive leaf, a blend of different mushrooms, shiitake, maitake. I mean, you see HPV virus.
Here's a funny question, and it's like, fine, we'll just do it. This guy says, Dr. Justin, Brendan, I am in college. I am going to drink alcohol.
Oh yeah.
So what can I do to mitigate some of these effects? Obviously, guys, alcohol is poison. Both of us agree on that. But like, you know, hey, like, I'm not going to tell a 21-year-old on their birthday, you know, it looks like this guy's at like University of Arizona or something. Okay. He's going to drink alcohol. So Dr. Justin, you have to drink some alcohol. What are some protocols that you do?
I gotten that question 100 times, and I've refined this myself too. Okay. Because I'm not perfect. So first thing is NAC and glutathione before. Okay. You can also do a little bit of vitamin C. You prime it before. Okay. Every 1 to 2 drinks have 1 mineral water. So whether a Topo Chico or an Evian or a Perrier, or even if it's just like water, like just bring like a Redmond's Real Salt packet, like just because you're going to deplete electrolytes, right?
Yeah, we do see, I don't really repost them because it's like, I don't like promoting my electrolytes like that, but there's college kids who make these like drinks called Borgs or whatever they call them, where they'll like fill up like something and they'll put our electrolytes in there. And I'm like, well, you're going to get some hydration benefits from that. It's combined with alcohol. So it's silly, but yeah, for sure. Getting your electrolytes up.
100%. It depends on how much we're drinking. Are we drinking socially like 2 to 5 drinks?
I think this dude's going to get hammered.
Okay. We're going to get lit, right? So we're going to do that 2 to 1 rule.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to be doing activated charcoal. Right, we're gonna probably be doing like 1 activated charcoal every 2 drinks.
So I used to do this back in the day because like I first met you when I was 19, and then I still drank alcohol and stuff, and I was like 20, 21, in college, whatever. And so yeah, like I would do just what you're saying, NAC and vitamin C before, and then I would start to get some of my electrolytes in, and then like in my pocket I would put some activated charcoal.
Yes.
And then like with my first drink, often I would start to hit some of that activated charcoal.
Yes.
Like,
so for me, if I'm going to drink socially, I'm going to have 2 glasses of wine, right? I'm going to just do my vitamin C and some NAC before. And then when I get home, it's just electrolytes.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm feeling a bit buzzed, I'm going to do more vitamin C, more NAC, and maybe a charcoal before bed, extra magnesium as well. And then if I'm drinking longer, right, I'm going to layer in every 2 drinks. I'm going to maybe hit an extra charcoal, maybe every 3 an extra NAC. And I may get my NAC up to 3 to 4 grams throughout the night. Yeah. It depends. Now the quality of the alcohol, like what kind of quality of the alcohol you're doing. Don't be cheap. Go get Tito's vodka that's activated charcoal filtered. Maybe do my Dr. J's Moscow Mule. Do squeeze a lime in there, half a lime or quarter of a lime. Do some kombucha in there, right? Do a little bit of Topo Chico mineral water. Add some Tito's vodka. Like keep it to clean stuff. If you do clean stuff versus like some crappy like malt liquor.
Oh yeah, people
40,
chugging like IPAs and they fall asleep in like 5 minutes. It's like there's a whole, obviously the alcohol is poison in there, but like
It's
there's
just
other
qualities.
shit in there. Yeah.
Cleaner alcohol, you will feel better after and you will rebound better. Also, like really good, like Italian Prosecco or like champagne, depending on what your budget is. You can get like a nice bottle of like
I don't know
Napa
if
for
this
18
dude's
bucks.
gonna afford Prosecco, but he can go the like vodka route,
Dude,
you know.
yeah.
If you're in college and you're watching this, yeah, like I get it. You want to go drink with your friends, so it's like, all right, do some, you know, vodka, keep it simple, some tequila or whatever.
Yeah.
And then do the NAC before, do the vitamin C, you know, so you're not like going to cause like permanent damage to your liver. Like this is going to help so your glutathione levels don't just go down. Like I bet in college, a lot of these people that start drinking a lot, like if you could like look at their glutathione levels, it's just that 4 years they just like go down like over time because they're not supporting it with basic stuff like NAC with good nutrients, with glutathione. And glutathione can get pretty expensive, guys. This is why you can lean on the NAC more. It's going to boost your glutathione levels.
NAC crosses the blood-brain barrier. Glutathione's too big. It will not cross the brain. NAC will cross and then convert to glutathione in the brain. So I do like it because it's cheaper and it does work on the brain.
For sure.
If you can do both, great. But if not, NAC is enough.
Yeah. And then when you get home, water, hydration, electrolytes, activated charcoal. Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good protocol.
Yeah, so you got like your either good quality tequila with a sparkling water. If you can have it be like an Evian or like a Topo Chico or like a Perrier, it's better because you got electrolytes in there. You can do that. You do my Moscow Mule with a kombucha, and then your lemon or lime with sparkling water. Great. A drier white wine. If you're going to do beers, just get the better quality stuff. If you can get a gluten-free one like Red Bridge, or there's some other good, there's I think Omission in Austin, they add an enzyme that breaks up the gluten. So there's less gluten in there. So you can try things like that too. You know, if you do red wine, try to make sure it's drier, right? The more drier, the better.
And guys, I was like in this game for a while of like trying to go out and drink, yet I was still obsessed with health. And like we just covered a lot of stuff you can do. I get it. Personally, I came to the conclusion in my own life that this was a dumb game I was playing. I would go out and I would go to like the bar, you know, and I was already getting into health at this point. I'm 20, 21, 22. And I'd be like, all right, can I have like a Tito's and club soda, you know, the lime and like this stuff. And it's like, at some point I just started to kind of not like drinking. Luckily I have a big friend group now that doesn't really drink. My wife doesn't drink. So it's like, luckily, I was able to sort of work my way out of that, but I think it's a totally valid question from somebody who's 21 at University of Arizona in college. There are some protocols to protect your health as best you can. So,
yeah, and try to like this generation drinks way less alcohol, which is great. I asked all my young patients, I'm like, so what's the alcohol culture vibe like? Like, is it less? Is it more? Are you guys more They're like, everyone's more focused on health. Everyone's focusing on the gym and what their macros are at. I'm like, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
But if you do it, there's a way out, and just, you know, good, better, best.
Yeah, totally. You can microdose mushrooms. You know, there's a lot of things you can do. Okay, so next question. People
spend a ton of money on alcohol, man. Like, just bank that money, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just bank it.
Yeah, for sure.
Get compound interest going for you. Bank
for
it.
Sure. Okay, so this question right here, this is a good one. We covered some of these topics. Hey, Dr. Justin Brennan, I am 17 years old and I want to maximize my testosterone levels. What are some things that I can do right now? I already sleep well and I feel like I eat pretty well.
That's excellent. So make sure your protein's adequate, right? You can look at increasing a little bit of creatine. That's good. Ashwagandha, there's studies at 15 to 20%.
Big fan of ashwagandha in the evening. I feel like a lot of people sometimes like mistime ashwagandha. I mean, I know with certain protocols, if somebody has like excess high cortisol, you could, you know, but like for most people, like I wouldn't take it before your workout, before practice. I would take it when you come home from that. It's 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. You're chilling. All you have to do is eat dinner, work on some homework, whatever it is, and chill. That's the time I would take ashwagandha. It's going to bring down that cortisol, which helps with testosterone.
Yep. I like NAC. NAC is phenomenal. It's also going to help with hormone detoxification. So I love that. Saw palmetto, man. I'll tell you, one of the biggest
Dude, I've been
things,
taking the saw palmetto that you put me on a while ago.
One of the biggest things I've ever done to improve my libido and testosterone. Because what it does, it's a natural alpha reductase. Alpha reductase. I always confuse aromatase and alpha reductase. Aromatase is T to E. Alpha reductase is going to be T to DHT, right? So it's like kind of a natural version of Propecia or finasteride. And it's going to help block that enzyme about 30 to 50%. Finasteride is about 70%, dutasteride 90 to 100%. And so it's going to help block that, which then dams up and increases that free testosterone. So I love that as well. Plus your natural alpha reductase compounds, zinc, selenium.
Oh yeah,
copper. Those are going to be your natural ones.
I mean, we sell the zinc copper, 15 milligrams, 1 milligram, and it's like that it's one of the best supplements you can take. It's just something I
100%.
take every day.
Yeah.
Zinc has tons of immune system benefits, but it also
100%.
has a lot of endocrine benefits. And it's like, sometimes with our food and our diet, you're just not getting enough of some of these minerals. And there's literally like no downside, especially when you balance the zinc with copper,
Yeah.
to supplementing a little bit of this.
100%.
So
And
yeah,
if you're
that's
doing organ
easy.
meat too, you can get like orchic glandular where you're getting bovine or ovine testicle in there, plus kidney, plus heart. You can get a lot of the zinc, copper in there too. Tongkat Ali, tribulus, excellent. You can do horny goatweed, which is Apomedium lucidum, right? That's like the other name. And so, you stingy nettle. So these are all really good herbs, but I always start with foundational things. And then depending on how high you want to go, you can go. But I've had patients, my young guys, I've doubled testosterone. No bioidentical, no TRT. I've doubled it.
Yeah.
I've seen it like time and time again. So I feel really confident. Maximize your natural compounds first. Maximize the common sense stuff, and you won't even need it. Because what's your goal? Your goal isn't a number. It's there's a physiological imbalance that you're shooting to rectify, right?
For sure. Okay, and then I have a question. So some stuff I take, like boron has been helpful for me.
Yeah.
And then like quercetin and nettle, how do those raise testosterone? I'm a big fan of taking my quercetin. I take the nettle in that saw palmetto supplement. Like, how are those helping me with testosterone?
It's going to be lowering the SHGB.
Gotcha.
Right. So the S8, that's the sex hormone binding globulin made by the liver, and that's going to allow for an increase in free testosterone.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's going to decrease the binding.
Okay.
And some conventional docs will even do like a little bit of DHT, right? Which I don't recommend that, because if you go too much, you can make yourself infertile.
Sure.
But they'll do that because that also lowers SHGB too.
Gotcha. Okay. Sweet. Let me find another question.
But there's so many things that you can do, guys. Like if you're a young guy coming out, first off, you may want to be a dad someday. Okay. So like always keep that there. And there's so many things that you can do. Right? There's so many things you can do to bump up your T, to bump up your energy. And it may not just be your T. You may have mitochondrial issues. You may be in a moldy. I mean, dude, I had patients who live at, different colleges, and they test their dorm rooms. They're full of freaking mold.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
Those
it's
dorms,
gross.
they don't
And it's
care.
like,
yeah,
that's all estrogenic, man. Like,
for sure.
dude.
Yeah, it's wild. Okay, I got another one. This will be a good one. Hey, Dr. J, Brennan, what are your top supplements for sleep?
Love it. So first off, hard time going, staying, or both? That question is really important, right? I'll go over both scenarios. Hard time going to sleep, we make sure like blue lights are down. We're making sure our sleep environment's good, get a good routine down, whether it's meditation or prayer or just relaxing more before bed. Easy things, magnesium, right?
Yeah.
That's a big one.
I feel like everybody should be on magnesium a little bit, because like
dude,
I've put my days of
no-brainer.
eating in Chronometer, and you can analyze the micronutrients. And like my friend's like a Sills, who's like super into nutrition. Same thing. He puts his days of eating in there, and almost always you fall a few 100 milligrams short of magnesium, just because like the food is just depleted. And even when I'm hitting like some Honey Mama's dark chocolate or something like that, I'm still like a little low. So it's like I'm not crazy low because I do have a good diet, but it's like throwing in a few 100 milligrams of magnesium glycinate is affordable. It's easy to do. You don't even need to worry about when you take it, guys. It's not like magnesium knocks you out.
No,
it's just like helping your body in every single way, so your body functions better.
300 enzymatic reactions or more in the body, and so it helps in a lot of different ways. If someone's got a lot of gut health issues, we're going to be doing magnesium or Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate. Just do a foot bath. You're putting on Netflix, you're reading, you're like doom scrolling, like just soak your feet, 15 minutes, hot water, put a cup of it in there.
Yeah.
Like just chill out, That's easy enough there. Now, if we see high levels of cortisol, we may even throw a little bit of ashwagandha in a couple hours before bed. We may do some things that work more on like GABA, which is an inhibitory neurotransmitter.
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of lemon balm. It's in our sleep caps. Our sleep caps are lemon balm, L-theanine, valerian. And, like when you combine some of these things, it just like, it gives you like that eyes heavy, relaxed feeling, yet passion flower, like you don't wake up with that groggy feeling.
Right.
And I think we're both like, oh, like melatonin could be used in certain circumstances. Maybe you're coming back and switching time zones, or you have some, certain issues. But like, if you take melatonin every day, you just kind of wake up with this like groggy feeling.
Most people take way too much. Your body, your pituitary, right, makes basically a third of a microgram. So like a third of a microgram. So we're talking a very, very small amount, right? Most people like 1 to 3 milligrams or more of melatonin. So people take way too much physiologically. And like it's okay coming off the weekend or traveling. I just don't want to use it day in, day out unless I absolutely have to, right?
For sure.
Now there's some things I'll use it for gastroparesis and acid reflux at night, because it does help with gut emptying. So there'll be certain things I'll use it for non-sleep wise.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then we'll also look at maybe 5-HTP with B6.
Mm-hmm.
We'll look at other herbs. So you mentioned Melissa/lemon balm. There's also my kids come to me. We're gonna give them GABA and theanine. I'll give it sublingual. That works really good. California poppy hops really good as well.
Nice.
Right? Skullcap's excellent.
Yeah,
too.
if you make your environment actually dark and you avoid blue light like the plague after the sunset, like you make your iPhone screen like, you can just like look up how to like do that thing with your iPhone screen. Boom, boom,
Night
boom.
shift. Yeah.
Boom. It's like super red now. Like
Yep.
if you avoid blue light, make your place dark, take some of those herbs and, amino acids like we just talked about, you're going to get sleepy and you're going to be able to go to sleep.
Yep.
And if you really can't, then you really need to get some functional medicine tests. Like if you do that consistently, you really need to start to see if you have like some crazy high cortisol going on at night. Yeah.
And whatever room you're in at night, like whether it's your family room or kitchen or bedroom, dimmer switches, get it down, you put it down, it's only 10%, and then it's really low. I also interviewed the guy from lowbluelights.com. You can get like kitchen lights that are low blue where you can just like tap it 3 times and then it goes to like no blue.
Yeah.
So there are new lights now on the market where you can get to do that. Like that's
I'm
cool.
crazy about it. I have a candle, beeswax candle next to my bed, and like that, I light that thing, and it's like, dude, like that's it. Like, yeah. So that's
No
really
darkening shades too. That's like a no-brainer. Like,
for
thing.
sure.
Yeah, and if you're on a budget, like just get like what I used to do. I used to get like tinfoil in college and just like put it all
just
on the
make
window.
it dark.
It looked ghetto as heck, but
now I have
works.
such a cool setup. Like in like my room where Sophie and I sleep. Like we have like a window up here, but we have the actual blackout curtain, but it's retractable. So then we set it in the morning to open and start to get the light in there. It's so nice.
That is amazing.
But it's like pitch black. Okay,
That's
let's
great.
load up another question. We'll do one more question.
But let's say
for you
hypothetically
guys.
someone's waking up at night. Now it's blood sugar. Now we're looking at other things. So it can be a little bit dicey, but just kind of giving you both scenarios.
For sure. This is actually an interesting one I just got. What do you guys think about Shilajit and sea moss? I'll tell you kind of my general thoughts, and then you can dive into it. The sea moss thing, I was never a huge fan of this sea moss trend because it's like, okay, this substance is very minerally rich. Okay, it has a lot of trace minerals, was how it was advertised, but you have some carrageenan in there because it's like derived from seaweed, which can be gut disrupting for some people, and then also these were oftentimes sold in like these like gels, and because it became so popular, there was probably some companies that weren't really dialed in, and my worry there would be mold. And so it's like, if you want to get a bunch of trace minerals or something, I'd be way more happy with someone taking like a beef heart encapsulated supplement or a beef liver encapsulated supplement, or even just like adding some egg yolks to their diet. Shilajit, I am a fan of. I think there's some really legit companies selling Shilajit. There's some cool studies on it. Haro has a Shilajit out there, and it's like, yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on it. Dr. J, what do you think about Shilajit and sea moss?
Exactly. Same thing. Like, your sea moss is going to be like your multivitamin, so to speak. I just would choose an organ meat over that. Right?
Yeah,
I
agree.
It's a superfood. It's going to have all the other kind of natural compounds with it. It's going to have the animal-based heme. So I like that. I mean, cultures have always used organ meats for like fertility enhancement. And they always knew like the health of the tribe was based on the next generation. So they'd harvest the organs and they'd give it to the females.
For sure.
Getting ready. So there's always just that natural history there. And then the minerals, right? Yeah. I mean, I think it's good. I mean, I think it's an electrolyte support, good minerals. There's some studies on it helping to improve CoQ10. I think it can't hurt. I think, yeah. It's low hanging fruit. Some kind of a good electrolyte support is going to be key. Extra magnesium, extra potassium. I think fulvic minerals like that are good. Plus there's also some data on those helping with binding up mold too.
And so CoQ10 is a really interesting one that we've touched on a few times in this podcast, and maybe we could just dive into it really briefly here. Like CoQ10, as far as I understand, has tons of heart health and mitochondrial health benefits. One interesting thing, people talk shit on the like supports like thing, but beef heart is really rich in CoQ10. Yeah. So like that's interesting. Why do you like giving people CoQ10?
So one, most people have mitochondrial deficits, and that's going to be one of the most important nutrients, right? So if you look at like the electron transport chain, and like you have like these different like respiratory chains, like 1, 2, 3, 4, it all requires CoQ10 to run, right? And so if you look at like, if you look at the Krebs cycle, right? What's the Krebs cycle? It's going to run around twice, and it's basically just gathering hydrogens. It takes NAD and goes to NADH. That's why NADH is helpful. and then it takes FADH to FADH2. And so it runs around twice. So you get like 6 NADHs and 2 FADH2s. Those then jump in to the electron transport chain. So it's gathering up hydrogens. Those hydrogens go into the electron transport chain, and then CoQ10 is important. And that's where like 95% of your is your ATP is produced in that electron transport chain. And it's going to require all the hydrogens from the Krebs cycle and the CoQ10 to run it.
Mm-hmm.
And then part of the ATP building block is that's where creatine comes in. So you see all these things have to dovetail. You got like the mitochondria, electron transport chain, Krebs cycle. Then you have, your thyroid. Then you have your female hormones, your male hormones. They all kind of like
for sure
coalesce, if you will.
Yeah, totally. All right, guys. I think that is what we're going to dive into today. The last thing I'm going to hit on is basically how can someone work with you. We've tried to make it as simple as possible. We even have the Santa Cruz Medicinals lab package on there, which someone can see. And so, just tell people how they can work with you.
Excellent. Go to justinhealth.com, JUST, my name, INHEALTH.com. There'll be a link there. Work with Dr. J, click it. It's also a podcast and YouTube's. I'm like a YouTuber / podcast OG since like 2010. So I've been around for a hot minute on that. I also got a new book out, thyroidreboot.com. It goes over to my Amazon page. Great book. Got #1 in preventative medicine and endocrinology. So if you want to take a look at that. And again, it talks about thyroid, but it also connects the other hormones, the adrenals, the testosterone, the gut, the mold. So if you're like, well, I don't have thyroid, it still talks about the other things that kind of connect into it. So when you're there, you can click and then you can reach out and my team will contact you.
I love it. And guys, like I'm telling you, this stuff can change your life. I know there's the how to find a functional medicine practitioner. What is it? IFM or Institute of Functional Medicine as like a find a practitioner thing. Practitioners are going to vary a lot. I've talked to many, and I like how you and Evan work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's other people doing it like you guys, but there's also people who I've talked to who aren't doing it like you guys. So it's not like it's kind of a difficult thing. I wish there were tons of people like you out there that was just like easy to find, and but it is more nuanced to kind of find a good functional medicine practitioner who's really going to look in depth at stuff. How can someone go about finding one?
That's a great question. So the biggest thing is I want to understand someone's philosophy. Do you have hey, I got to spend $250,000 to get in, and this is the set thing that everyone goes through, or this is the $25,000 program, or like, hey, can we sit down? Can we have a conversation, and can we discuss what you think is up with me and what I should do, and can we come up with a plan of like good, better, best? Like what's like step 1, step 2, step 3, and maybe I can come at it a little bit slower. Mm-hmm. So I like to customize. Also, the problem with a lot of patients is a lot of people have done a lot of different things. They've tried this supplement, they've done this, they did this diet thing. A good functional medicine program is about doing everything together at the right time.
Yeah.
So you can have like your mom's famous recipe for her brownies. That's like 20 steps. But if you don't do them all together at the right time, it's going to come out like junk. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how functional medicine is. You want to get everything kind of timed up and ready and don't just one off everything.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, guys, I would highly recommend, especially if you can afford it. I mean, I've run into people who have tons of money. I talk to these creators all the time that are making so much money, and they just live with these health issues. And it's so dumb. I'm sorry, I'm going to get intense now, but it's like I've talked to creators that have, Crohn's disease, and creators that have, I always have this thing. I wake up every night at 3 a.m. It's ruining my health. And I'm like, oh, you need to go talk to Dr. Justin. And they won't. People won't follow up on them. There is a self-sabotage and a self-hate thing with so many people out there that it's sad. Or they'll just go to their normal doctor and they'll be like, yeah, I've been feeling depressed. My doctor, he said I need to get on SSRI, and people blindly follow this stuff. And so I hope through this podcast, you have gotten the info of sort of an overview of how the body works and then what is available with modern technology out there to get a snapshot of what's actually going on with your body. And the way that you fix those things is actually through herbs 98% of the time. And I know that you will refer people to Western medicine when you see something crazy pop up. That's the other thing. Some of this stuff can be life-saving, guys. When you go to Dr. Justin, I'm sure you've referred tons of people. You're like, holy shit, like, you're having these symptoms and this is what is in your labs. Like right now you need to go drive to the doctor. So sometimes this stuff can be life-saving. So I hope this benefits you guys tons. We're going to take a break and then film more content and then go eat some steak later. We're stoked.
Yes,
Thank you so much for all that. I mean, that's going to help so many people.
Absolutely, brother.
Yeah, much love.
Yes,
Peace,
sir.
guys. Like, subscribe, leave any questions that you have below, and we will get to them. Love y'all. Peace.